They hate when you elevate. They feel like I'm floating, I'm lost in the moment, I swear I could levitate. They never believed that I would really fly, I had to go demonstrate. I had to set them straight. They hate when you elevate. Elevate, elevate. They hate when you elevate. Elevate, elevate. Yeah. They hate when you elevate. Elevate, elevate. They hate when you elevate. Yeah. I had to elevate. I'm way up, way too fly. Yeah, I'm feeling myself. Ain't no chance I'm coming down, no. Got a soul view to myself, yeah. Why would I give it up? Why do they wanna come take my place? I work too hard for it, don't need a replacement. This my vocation. Now I got rollies, all in rotation. Hop on a jet just to take a vacation. Remember the moments was trapped in the basement. Now the hard work is all taking me places. Water all blood like we trapped in the matrix. Bet on myself and go ball out in Vegas. Living a life like I'm rich and I'm famous. Don't see the grind that I know that it came with. Oh. I ain't make it this far for myself, yeah. I had to prove to everybody else. I had to
Yep.
They hate when you elevate. The second of losses, I'm handing them out. Yeah, I had to go delegate. It feel like I'm floating, I'm lost in the moment. I swear I could levitate. They never believed that I would really fly. I had to go demonstrate. I had to set them straight. They hate when you elevate. Elevate, elevate. They hate when you elevate. Elevate, elevate. Yeah. They hate when you elevate. Elevate, elevate. They hate when you elevate. Yeah. I had to elevate.
All right. Salute, man. Yeah, we back at it again. We up this morning, back at it again. Hope you guys had a great weekend. This past weekend, you guys know my schedule, right? So you already know what it is. I always say, but at some point I will stop saying it, right? And assume that you guys will get it, that I work the weekend wraparound shift, and this is my days off, right? Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. So we try to come up here live every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday morning and give you guys a little something. Let's build. I kind of like it, to be honest with you, because so much happens during the week. I like giving some time to go by so we can actually build on some actual content. I don't like forcing the content. Boxing keeps moving, of course, and there's always something out there to speak on, but it makes it a nice, good, healthy show when there's a lot of stuff at one time. Shout out to everybody who is in the building right now. I know we're creeping in slow. It's the morning time. There's a lot of other channels doing their thing, man, but I appreciate you guys being here. What did Jay say? You guys could be anywhere in the world, but you're right here with me. And salute you guys for being in the building with me. Shout out to who's in the chat today. AK Crowder, my brother from another, always showing love. I appreciate you, brother. Salute to AK Crowder. Grassroots love right here. Grassroots love. And of course, Eastside Easy, man. I really appreciate him, man. Well deserved, man. It's been supporting since day one. Day one right there. Salute. And of course, Country Q. Man, Country Q. I guess there's a lot of people who like to talk about boxing, man. I really appreciate you guys being in the building. Man, don't forget to hit your likes and all that stuff. We got a lot to talk about this morning. We're going to be building. We're going to keep it moving. I'm not sure about Ray Davis this morning. I ain't going to lie to you guys. I'm not too sure. I wasn't able to reach him this morning. Don't know what's going on over there, but if he pops in, he pops in. Other than that, though, the show must go on, right? The show must go on. So on the top of the news, we got so many different things going on this past week. Obviously, I know you guys are up to speed with what's going on with Shakur Stevenson, so we got to speak on that. William Zepeda, hand injury, says he can't make that February 22nd date, is going to be sitting out for this one, getting that hand put together. And, of course, conveniently, of course, Shakur Stevenson just coming on the back end of a hand injury. I think presently right now nursing and rehabilitating one of his hands, the left or the right hand, if not both hands, right? So that's kind of funny, right? We'll talk about that as well. Oscar De La Hoya having decisions to make. He stays in the news. His fighters are in the news, which is, we got to give props to Oscar De La Hoya for keeping his fighters in the news, as there's also more news coming out that potentially Vergil Ortiz Jr. may be in negotiations presently at the moment to square off with Jaron Boots Ennis, right, for February 22nd. Supposedly might be a 5v5 card. We don't know yet as far as Matchroom and Golden Boy is concerned, but we're keeping our eye on that. We're going to talk about that as well. A lot of people got Jaron Boots Ennis as the underdog in this fight, which I think is very interesting, right? I read an article, I think it was on Boxing News 24, that has Vergil as the favorite in that fight. Hey, man, everybody, has their own opinion. Do I agree with that? I don't know. We'll talk about it, though. Maybe we'll come to a conclusion together as a community where we stand on this topic, right? We got to figure that out, man. Jaron Boots Ennis, underdog against Vergil Ortiz. We'll talk about it, right? And, of course, we have Clarissa Shields. Off the back end of the Jake Paul event, people are celebrating the numbers coming in, right? 65 million homes supposedly watching the fight. And, Amanda Serrano, Katie Taylor being the co-main event. A lot of people feel like maybe even the main event because they didn't take the Jake Paul, Mike Tyson fight seriously. But, they're celebrating 50 million views for that fight in particular. But does Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano really deserve those the accolades for those numbers, or is it really a Mike Tyson, Jake Paul thing? Regardless, Cameron from It Is What It Is. Shout out to Cameron with and Mace over there at It Is What It Is, celebrating Amanda Serrano for a successful evening. There, Amanda and Katie, and having all those views, and Clarissa Shields being the originator, the creator of the quote, having issues with that whole entire giving Amanda Serrano potentially GOAT accolades. And, she's going to push back at it. She does feel like she brought that word in, and she feels like people are just taking away her shine every time they call another woman the GOAT. We'll talk about that, of course. How do we feel about that? Was Cameron out of pocket? Was Clarissa out of pocket? Is Amanda Serrano out of pocket? Is everybody out of pocket? Or, should everybody just let lying dogs lie? We'll talk about all of that, of course. Errol Spence Jr. as well, right? Errol Spence Jr. has been out. It feels like going on 2 years, right? But if we're going to be right to the date, I believe July 29th, 2023 was the last time he was in the ring. We all know how that event went, of course, against Terrence Crawford, but a lot of anticipation for his return. He went through eye surgery. He had all types of things that he had to get over that people were wondering. His accident, who's he going to be when he comes back? And the longer it takes for him to come back, we're going to talk about that, right? What does that look like for Errol Spence? And what's taking Errol Spence so long? What's holding up Errol Spence from making his return at this point? What are we looking at right now? And, what is he going to be a shell of himself by the time he returns? We don't even know who he's trained. We're going to talk about it all, right? It's going on 2 years. At some point, July is going to get here. We don't even have a scheduled date for him. Rumors are moving around the place about him potentially fighting Sebastian Fundora, Erislandy Lara, all kind of rumors. Every now and then he pops out with a little video. We don't even know if it's a current video. He looks like he's somewhat in shape, right? And then what are we looking at? Okay, maybe he's getting ready. Maybe he's, people start to push the rumor mill, but it looks like Errol Spence may have responded a little bit, right? He may have given us some perspective on what's the reality of what we're looking at, as he put out some comments on Twitter. Basically just, speaking to a fan who is anticipating his return. We'll talk about that response and how much weight does that hold? Are we going to take it that seriously? We're going to talk about all of that, of course. And then, but I'm going to tap into the middleweight division a little bit as Hamza Shiraz. We'll talk about him a little bit, right? Because he's one of those guys who they're looking for to move the needle in the middleweight division. It seems like the middleweight division is missing one or two fighters in order to get it going. It's kind of like falling back. We know about Janibek. We know about Carlos Adames. We know about Erislandy Lara. But who's going to be in there to kind of stir the pot, right? Hamza Shiraz seems like there's a lot of money on him, as far as, I don't mean literal money, but as far as betting on him to be able to spark that division back up. We're going to talk about him as well, right? What is the middleweight division going to look like with Hamza Shiraz in there? He's in there causing commotion already. There's duck talk in there, supposedly, about who he's picking to fight. We'll talk about it all, right? Shout out to who's in the chat right now. Oh, my guy, Echo in the building. Salute. The scholar amongst scholars, Echo from across the pond. Always glad to see you in the building. Shout out to RC in the building. Giveaway grassroots supporter. Anytime my channel goes up, I see him in there. I appreciate you so much, brother, for being in the building. Shout out to Mr. Big Play Bray. We're going to talk about it here. You know what I mean? you know we're going to talk about it here, man. It's, you know what I mean? We're going to talk about boxing here, right? I don't know what's going on everywhere else. Shout out to the community, everybody playing their part. The part this platform plays is we actually going to talk about some boxing. I keep it simple, right? I don't know. I figure it's a boxing channel. Let's throw the dice and talk about some boxing, right? So let's start off the conversation here at the top of the list. As I said to you guys earlier, William Zepeda suffers a hand injury, question mark. Why? I don't know. I'm probably being an asshole putting a question mark there, right? If he says he suffered a hand injury, he probably suffered a hand injury, right? Come on. I need to stop it. I need to stop it. I need to stop it. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to be one of those guys. You know what I'm saying? He suffered a hand injury, all right? Forget the question mark. Don't look at the question mark. Stop. Get away from the question mark. William Zepeda suffers a hand injury. More importantly, Shakur Stevenson back at 1. What does that mean? Shakur Stevenson seems to always have a hard time putting together these big fights. If it's not his own injuries getting in the way, right? If it's not across the street drama, if it's not bad promotions from a promotional platform like Top Rank who doesn't want to make the big fights with him, or if it's not fighters who just seem to be ducking and moving around him, it seems like Shakur Stevenson is just having a hard time at this. And now, of course, with this hand injury, William Zepeda, plans, something about plans, right? Something about plans, guys. You know, we make plans, but, you know, it seems like when the universe wants something, it wants it, and when it doesn't, it doesn't. I don't know what you want to blame it on, but, you know, plans are there to be broken. And it seems like, although Shakur Stevenson had this great game plan when he signed with Matchroom with Eddie Hearn, the game plan was like, we're going to fight Joe Cordina on potentially the biggest card of the year, October 22nd. We guys, you know, we all saw it. Dimitri Bivol and Artur Beterbiev. He was going to be the co-headliner on his first pay-per-view event. He wasn't going to miss out on that opportunity, right? People have pushed back at Shakur Stevenson saying, listen, the big fight that we want as fans was Shakur Stevenson versus Gervonta Tank Davis, and they wanted Shakur to make himself available by any means necessary to make this fight happen. You know, make it as easy as possible. Give Tank Davis or the PBC or Tom Brown, whoever's coordinating these fights, give these guys the smallest amount of excuses that you can possibly give these guys so that they can have no reason not to make the fight. And Shakur Stevenson seemed to be on his own game plan, right? And the game plan to me personally, from this content creator, always has been, I'm not going to stop. I would say something. I was going to say one. I'll say one monkey don't stop a show, but, you know, no, respectfully, I'm not calling by a monkey. I already know how the space is. But just to say that he's not going to wait on one fighter per se and put his whole career in one basket. He's going to move forward, and he's going to make the best decisions that are going to benefit him and his family. And whoever wants to fight him will make the proper arrangements. They'll negotiate with the right people, and they'll make it happen if that's the fight that they want. But no more waiting, right? I've been waiting long enough on Top Rank, and now I'm moving forward to what's going to benefit me. And it seems like him and his team came to an agreement and understanding that Eddie Hearn was going to be the best decision for him to go to Matchroom, get himself, you know, closer to Turkey Alashi, get closer to where the money is, get closer to the activity, and move forward that way for the benefit of his career, his legacy, and of course his family on a financial level. But it's just not working out at this point, right? He tried to make a fight with William Zepeda in the beginning of the year, and William Zepeda said what? Well, not the beginning of the year, but the beginning of the new relationship with Matchroom with William Zepeda. And William Zepeda said, listen, I'm having a baby, right, guys? I'm having a kid. I need some time to myself, for me, my family, my woman, take care of my house. We can respect that, right? We can respect that. He said he had to get some time for himself. So look, Shakur said, that's okay. What do you got for me, Eddie? Eddie said, look, let's bring up Joe Cordina from 130. The boxing space went crazy. And look, Joe Cordina wasn't a fight that I was looking forward to seeing, right? I wasn't looking forward to see that fight necessarily, but I did understand that Shakur Stevenson needed to be active, right? And this was the fight that Eddie Hearn, his new promoter that he signed a deal with, said, I've got this fight for you. But more importantly, forget about the fight, the opportunity for the platform, Riyhad season, to be a co-headliner on your first pay-per-view card. This is the most important thing. Let's get you showcased in front of the world on an international platform. Let's get your fan base up. Let's build it up, because ultimately, no matter what anybody wants to say, if he builds up his brand, him and Gervonta Tank Davis just adds up to be an even bigger fight, right? An even bigger fight, pulling even more attention. So Shakur says, listen, I'm down for it. And I'm hearing rumors that there was money in the realm of close, give or take, $5 million guaranteed to Shakur Stevenson to fight Joe Cordina. So look, the money talks. Everything else can walk. People can say what they want to say. There's something about being hated. It's like, how much more can you hate me, right? The boxing space may be mad at me now, but they've been mad at me. I'm not an exciting fighter. I'm running around the ring. People are walking out of my fights, right? I've got cameras on me. I'm fighting. People are walking out. Round 8, 9 of my fight, people are walking out the building. How much worse can it get? $5 million is what I'm going to focus on. And once again, I feel Shakur, right? Personally, me. So Shakur makes a move for Joe Cordina. What happens in training? Hand injury, right? But it turns out it was a hand injury that we all know. We've seen him kind of like not throwing his hands as much, and it turns out this was a hand injury, according to his grandfather and trainer Wally Moses, is a hand injury that he's been babying for the past 6 to 7 fights. So something that probably needed attention anyway, maybe a blessing in disguise. The fans don't see a fight that they don't want to see, and Shakur gets a chance to get the hand rehabilitated, right? So he takes the time to go get it rehabilitated, gets a Joe Cordina fight off of the schedule, and that's where he's at. People are pushing back at him, but he's on making a comeback. And an opportunity now, being that William Zepeda has come out of the dark and said, listen, I'm going to fight Tevin Farmer. I'm available, even though he wasn't available before. Some people want to call it ducking, interesting, however you want to look at it. He comes back. He fights Tevin Farmer. We'll talk about that fight as well. But more importantly, Shakur Stevenson rehabilitating his hand, says me and Zepeda, depending on what happens between him and Tevin Farmer. We'll meet up in February, on February 22nd, while Oscar De La Hoya and Eddie Hearn are going through their back and forth, looking like they're building up a potential 5v5 between Matchroom and Golden Boy. What ends up happening? Guys? It looks like Zepeda maybe it's the curse of Eddie Hearn, maybe it's the curse of Shakur Stevenson, but he has a hand injury as well, supposedly, and he has to pull out the fight. Shakur Stevenson back at square one, hasn't fought since he's gone over to Eddie and Matchroom, and at this point, the whole space is pushing back. I even hear people talking about, see, this is what you get, Shakur, for going over to Eddie. This is what you get, Shakur, for ducking Tank Davis, which we could talk about a little bit later as well, because I do hold some issues. With that, right? I hold some issues with the ducking situation, but we'll talk about it a little more later. Let me shout out to everybody in the building as well. I see people stacking up in the chat. I'm running my mouthpiece, right? Let's see here. Echo said hello on here. How are you, Clay? Salute, Echo. I'm doing great, man. Only him and his team know if he's injured his hand in the Farmer fight. 100%, Echo. That is a fact, man. Hannibal, I kind of wish he stayed on Top Rank, knowing 2 titles is over there. We're going to talk about that, Hannibal. We're going to talk about it all, bro. Thank you for the engagement, because we are going to talk about that as well. RC says, I think Oscar saw that Farmer fight and said, we're going to talk about that as well. We're going to listen. My chat, my people who come in here, we got some real boxing heads in here at all time. Very, very low on the silliness, very high on the scholarship on the ATP Combat Media Show. And I appreciate you guys for coming in and engaging over here. Mr. Big Play Flyer, blah, 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 blah. Shakur definitely didn't duck Tank. Word, Hannibal. We're going to talk about it, right? So let me get back to my spiel. So where are we at? So we're basically at Shakur getting pushed back now for being at Matchroom at this point. Is Eddie Hearn the issue? Is Eddie Hearn the issue? It seems like people want to put, look, I'll get right to it. Hell no, he's not the issue, right? Guys, he's not. Eddie Hearn is a great promoter. Shakur Stevenson is maybe had a little bad luck, dealing with some injuries, dealing with some bad promotion. He's in a bit of a rut, but does he leave his situation right now to move on to greener pastures? And what do those greener pastures even sound like? What is greener pastures for Shakur Stevenson? Now, some people will push back and say, listen, Shakur should have signed some deal with the PBC. I don't know that the PBC offered Shakur Stevenson a deal, quote unquote. I don't know that to be true. I don't know it to be false, but I'll say it like this. Any fighter in the boxing space who's looking to make money, it's kind of like truck driving. If the wheels ain't turning, we ain't earning, right? If these fighters ain't fighting, how are they making their money? So a fighter like Jalil Hackett or Shakur Stevenson or Ray Vargas or Jaron Boots Ennis, these guys are looking to be active, right? And if the PBC isn't offering activity, and I'd say it's arguable, it's reasonable to argue at this point that the PBC is having a difficult time keeping their own fighters active. Why would Shakur Stevenson go over to the PBC just off the strength of potentially making a fight with Tank Davis without no offers on the table? He doesn't know what kind of money he's looking forward to when he has a a platform like Matchroom, who's working with Riyhad Season, who's been part of some of the biggest cards, the biggest money opportunities for fighters over there in Saudi Arabia. Why wouldn't he take that opportunity? No, Shakur Stevenson doesn't need to move on. Shakur Stevenson probably needs to be patient, but does Shakur Stevenson need to consider? We'll talk about it, right? We'll talk about it. We'll get back to that, right? You guys hold that thought right there. Let's get over here to William Zepeda and Tevin Farmer and what's actually happening over here in this hand injury. This hand injury that William Zepeda is nursing now on the back end of a fight with Tevin Farmer, where it was super competitive. He got put on his pockets against a fighter who a lot of people were counting out. Tevin Farmer, a 130-pound fighter in all reality, back in the day in conversations of potentially fighting Gervonta Tank Davis, if you guys recall, but really resurging back into the space, coming out of that Philadelphia with that pedigree, was supposed to be a gauge, was supposed to be a preparation tool used to prepare William Zepeda to get ready for Shakur Stevenson. And in that fight, we saw a very competitive fight. Some people walked away feeling like Tevin Farmer won that fight, right? Let's think about this. Some people, they walk away thinking Tevin Farmer won this fight, but William Zepeda ultimately gets his hand put up at the end of the day. He gets his hand put up, walks away with the victory. In all arguments, for all reasonable arguments, passed the test, got his victory, became a WBC interim title holder in the 135-pound division, and rightfully so earned a spot to fight against Shakur Stevenson, even though he was already ranked number 1 in the division. But this fight was supposed to be all but signed and done. Or so we thought, right? So now, all of a sudden, and we could talk about testing and things that kind of went weird in that fight as well. Things that went, shout out to Mr. Big Play Bray, man, showing love, man. Putting some color in the chat, man. I appreciate you, brother. Thank you, man. $2 holla. Say color in the chat. Yeah, you guys don't be scared to show some love to your boy. You know what I mean? Put some color in that chat. You know what I mean? But yeah, so William Zepeda coming off the back end of a suspect fight, a fight where some people thought he lost, close split decision, and now he has a hand injury. Does this mean anything? Guys, are we connecting the dots here? Do those dots connect anywhere? Does it even make a difference, or is just William Zepeda having bad luck? He has a hand injury. That's how the ball bounces. Shakur Stevenson ends up on the other side of a inconvenient or convenient, however you want to look at it. You know what I mean? Line of activity, right? I don't know, right? I don't know. I don't want to speculate too much and start making up stories, but it is interesting, to say the least, that off the back end of a performance like that, I think a lot of people went into, if you were going to use that fight as a way to gauge what you're expecting from William Zepeda, Shakur Stevenson, if you're going to use any kind of triangle theory, you might have walked away after seeing that event and ask yourself, is William Zepeda really going to be able to compete with Shakur Stevenson? I mean, what's really going to happen here? Because whatever Tevin Farmer did, you just got to assume that Shakur Stevenson can do 10 times better. I mean, I think we're still underneath the umbrella and the idea that Shakur Stevenson is a better fighter, better boxer, whatever you want to call it, than Tevin Farmer. You would expect whatever Tevin Farmer did, that you would expect Shakur Stevenson to be able to do better. Now, look, Tevin Farmer stayed inside of a mid-range fight. He took a lot of shots. He gave a lot of shots. That's not how I see Shakur Stevenson fighting William Zepeda. But more importantly, forget about my opinion. What did William Zepeda's team think about the fight? How did they feel at the end of that fight, right? After coming out of a fight like that, how did they feel about moving forward into fighting a Shakur Stevenson? Now, I almost want to pull up a video here, but I'm not going to do it. Shout out to my guy, Mill City Boxing. That's my brother right there. You know what I mean? He did a real interesting interview with Coach Panda about 8 months ago. And Coach Panda on that interview was speaking towards Shakur Stevenson, giving him all the accolades in the world. He said Shakur Stevenson is the best fighter in the world, hands down. This is knowing his fighter, William Zepeda, ranked number 1 in all the sanctioning bodies across the space. On the back end of William Zepeda, I believe William Zepeda had just fought, if not Raymond Moore. No, it wasn't Raymond Moore. That was his last fight, right? Was it Raymond? No, what was it? Not Raymond Mortal. Sorry. Who had William Zepeda just fought? I can't think of the top of my head, but it's almost there, right? But at the end of the day, at the end of that fight, the conversation was William Zepeda stating that he wants to fight Shakur Stevenson, knowing his fighter wants to fight Shakur Stevenson, said Shakur Stevenson is the best fighter in the world. In that interview, even said if he had his choice, And he made it clear it's not his choice. It's between Oscar and William Zepeda. He's just a trainer, right? He's sort of a manager, but it's not his decision. But said, listen, if he had a choice in between Vasily Lomachenko and Shakur Stevenson, he said he want to fight Vasily Lomachenko first, right? Now, he said, look, it's not about being scared. He said it's business. At the end of the day, I go fight Vasily Lomachenko. If we can win that fight, he says he wanted the fight between his fighter, William Zepeda, and Shakur Stevenson to be a unification title fight for the big money, for the big show. Hey, man, listen, man, I'm here for it. I hear you, right? But some people might argue that, look, maybe you wanted the easier fight first. Maybe you didn't like your odds against Shakur Stevenson, the person who you're calling the best fighter in the world. Maybe you wanted to go ahead and get as much money as you can, and you thought your best opportunity was to beat Vasily Lomachenko, somebody who some people might say is getting a little aged out, is not the same Vasily Lomachenko he was years ago, but did just come off of a spectacular performance against George Kambosos. Maybe that would be, well, at that point, he hadn't fought George Kambosos yet, so let me retract that. But just saying that somebody who you're seeing is not back in the space that he normally we known him to be, being the Matrix and all that good talk, right? Some people might say you were taking the easier way out, but look, at the end of the day, it also makes sense that there's money in a unification fight between Shakur Stevenson and William Zepeda. If you're playing chess, that seems like a legitimate chess move. But now we fast forward to the present moment in time that we're in, and we see William Zepeda coming off of a lackluster fight against a slick black boxer, and you being somebody who gives Shakur Stevens the ultimate accolades of what he can do, who he is, and how difficult, but how it would be your responsibility to come up with a strategy to fight Shakur Stevenson. All of a sudden, your fighter gets a hand injury. It's an interesting situation, right? It's interesting to look at it unfold if you're paying attention to it like I do, right? Like I pay close attention to these things, right? Let me go up in the chat and catch up in the chat a little bit, because I'm going T Orlando on my top set. I'm screaming. Good morning, T Orlando. Good morning, brother. Always good. Always great to see you. Always great to see you. I don't know why let me calm down, T Orlando. I'm gonna take your advice. I'm gonna stop screaming as loud as I am, and I'm gonna, talk a little bit more in a room temperature. I'm gonna take your advice, brother. I'm gonna take your advice, brother. Good to see you, by the way. Salute to T Orlando in the building. Salute, King. Salute, man. What'd you say here? Max says they felt like he got dropped by a 130-pounder. And now they know Shakur is going to push for that drug testing now, so they pulled out. Wow. Yeah, listen, man, I'm not going to lie to you, man. I haven't even really brought up the drug testing yet, right? We know that Tevin Farmer pushed back at the whole entire event saying, listen, where was the drug testing? I wasn't drug tested. He wasn't drug tested. And conveniently, when there's an injury to a fighter after a fight, well, drug testing kind of gets neutralized, right? Why? Because now the fighter has to get on drug medication. He can get on perks. He can get on Tylenol 3 with codeine. He can get on all kind of things now to subdue the pain from a hand injury. And that kind of throws a wrench in the idea of the drug testing happening, right? Because they were saying that they were expecting the drug test after the fight, and all of a sudden he caught this injury. Once again, it could be just convenient, right? Just a coincidence, just a chain of events that's just coincidentally what it is, but we don't know, and we won't know, right? But at the end of the day, Mac Majestic, I got to agree with you. It's reasonable to argue that all those things you said are a long, powerful fighter like William Zepeda, able to keep a fight so close that people are thinking that Tevin Farmer won the fight. And then on top of that, drug testing conspiracies in the air about what's going on. We don't know, man, right? We just won't know. We just won't know. But I thank you, Mac Majestic. That's very interesting that you put that in there, right? Hannibal said, why should Shakur the champion sign the Golden Boy to fight is Mando? We're going to talk about that as well, Hannibal. Hannibal, you're on fire, by the way. You've been doing your thing, man. A lot of things you said I plan on covering today, because this whole idea that Shakur Stevenson as a champion should be chasing around opportunities by leaving where he's at to go to other promotional companies, assigning them to chase down mandatories is diabolical. Shout out to Showbiz. It's diabolical to me, right? He's a champion. What in the world does Shakur Stevenson look like chasing around mandatories? And we're going to talk about ultimately what does that mean for Shakur Stevenson? What is the best move for Shakur Stevenson at this point? Because although people feel like he doesn't have a lot of options over at Matchroom and they feel like he's kind of cornered, I might disagree. I'm going to give some pushback at the idea, because I think Shakur Stevenson actually has a lot more opportunity over at Matchroom than people are taking into consideration. I think perspective is everything. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and we'll push back and talk about that. You guys, of course, will let me know what you feel about it after we get to it, but I just don't believe necessarily everything you see is what you see. You know what I mean? 135 is a division that does look like Matchroom doesn't have a whole lot of opportunity for Shakur in, even though there are some opportunities there. We'll talk about it. I don't even want to leak into what we're going to say. Clay, shout out to my brother Fly. Feel like Shakur can easily time that jab to lay left hand over the top of Zepeda. Listen, all the above, man. All of the above, brother. Like, there's so many things. I can say this: a hand injury to William Zepeda at this point in the game, it does seem convenient in a lot of ways. It does seem convenient. It seems like William Zepeda could use a tune-up fight, but could he get a tune-up fight? What kind of excuse could he make to get out of a mandatory fight with Shakur Stevenson? Everybody knows it's time for William Zepeda to challenge for a title. He had an opportunity to challenge a Gervonta Tank Davis. He was number one in the WBA, right? He's number one in the WBO. He could have threw a shot at Dennis Berinchyk, right? And obviously Shakur Stevenson is there, and obviously is the IBF champion Vasily Lomachenko, who sat back and decided that he's going to take the rest of the year off. Wasn't an opportunity for him, but he could have waited it out. But he picked the best fighter he thought where the money was going to be, being that Turki Al-Sheikh has this relationship with Oscar De La Hoya, and he said he wanted Shakur Stevenson, fought William Zepeda in a title eliminator fight, right? Put himself as a WBC interim title. What excuse would William Zepeda have at this point to walk away from a Shakur Stevenson fight in a legitimate way to get himself a tune-up fight if they do feel like he needs a tune-up fight? This injury comes at a very convenient time, right? Convenient for him, in my opinion. I mean, injuries aren't convenient, right? Injuries suck, but when you look at it from the outside looking in, it's arguable. It's a reasonable argument to say that this might have given William Zepeda and his team a little bit more time that they needed in order to put this situation together, right? But I wonder if they even took into consideration that Shakur is coming off a hand injury himself. But look, sometimes what goes on in your head, we're all different people. We all think differently, right? It is what it is. Shout out to Danny Sanchez in the building, showing some love as well. Oh, I didn't even shout you out, Danny, for that love that you put out there. Shout out for the $1.99, for the $2 holla. Keep up the good work. I appreciate you, good brother. I appreciate you, family. Thank you, man. Thank you, right? Let's see here. Oh, we got Bruce Gass in the building. What up, freaking low man? Easy work. I feel you on that, man. We might see, but I don't count on any fights being made these days. Yeah, man. Look, I'm going to do this last one right here, then I'm going to get back into my spiel, right? Tom Morris said Zepeda bought himself more time by going the WBC interim route. Is he trying to wait Shakur out at 135 because tanking that interim belt automatically removes him from other rankings? Ty, you are a cerebral man. We're going to talk about so much stuff in this show today, man. Cerebral, brother. Cerebral, right? T-Orlando said, Clay, know all them pills. Yeah, you know what I mean? You know what it is. You know, it's T-Orlando. T-Orlando is great for the channel because it keeps me on my toes. He always knows what to say to get to throw you off a little bit, making me, you know what I mean? Just sharpening the skills up. I appreciate your presence in the building, right? So, yeah, man, look. So, conveniently, and inconveniently at the same time, this is what William Zepeda has found himself an opportunity potentially to go ahead and regroup, or maybe it's not William Zepeda. A lot of time it's not the fighters, right? It's the fights. It's the guys training them. It's Panda. It's Oscar. It's Bernard. It's everybody outside of William Zepeda who have vested interest in his success, who are looking at it and saying, we need some time. Let's find some time. Maybe he did tweak his hand a little bit. Let's use it, pull him out this fight. It's a little too soon. It seems like, if you ask me, Oscar De La Hoya and Coach Pan have always had reservations about fighting Shakur Stevenson right now. They've always given Shakur Stevenson the ultimate amount of respect and accolades. I've heard conversations of them saying that he is the best fighter at 135. Like I told you, Coach Pan said he's the best fighter in the world. So, you're going into a fight like that where you feel like your fighter isn't that, but you still want to take the opportunity, then you're going to take any chance you can to improve your fighter. This may have been convenient for them to be able to do that, right? It is what it is, but moving forward at this point, right? moving forward at this point, if Williams Zepeda is pulled out of the conversation and he's no longer part of this conversation at this point of this fight, he's officially been removed out of the conversation. He has an injury. This is confirmed by his team, by Mr. Gomez over there at Golden Boy. We know that this fight's not happening. Then what's next for Shakur Stevenson at this point? Shakur Stevenson not fighting Williams Zepeda. Shakur Stevenson not fighting a Joe Cordina. Needs a great fight. He's trying to build up his brand. Well, who's next? What sense does it make for him? What does he do? Well, Floyd Schofield has something to say about it, right? You guys know that on Cigar Talk. Shout out to Najee at Cigar Talk. Floyd Schofield and Shakur Stevenson had a bit of a FaceTime opportunity to speak to each other. Him and Floyd, of course, with Floyd Schofield Sr., right? Because wherever Junior is at, Senior is going to be there. And they speak about what the future is for them, potentially fighting, as Floyd Schofield Jr. feels like he's there and he's ready to take on all opponents. We know Floyd Schofield Sr. has been super vocal about his fighter and son in Floyd Schofield Jr., saying that he's ready for all the big shows. He wants to see him against Tank Davis. He wants to see him here against all those champions. He thinks Floyd Schofield Jr. is just cut from special cloth, and he wants to see him in these big fights. He tried to go at Tank Davis. Tank Davis didn't respond to that, moved on, and we know Tank getting ready to fight Lamont Roach. So Junior was just waiting in the darkness, in the shadows, waiting for Oscar De La Hoya and Bernard Hopkins to come up with something great, waiting for the matchmakers at Golden Boy to come up for something special with him. Supposedly, Body was supposedly in the conversation, but as the universe opens up opportunities for him, man, on the back end of a Williams Zepeda injury and on the back end of a conversation that he had with Shakur Stevenson, where Shakur Stevenson did say, listen, man, if Williams Zepeda doesn't come through and he backs out of this fight, man, you might very well be the guy I pick up for the next fight. And, you know, Schofield Jr. and Senior wasting no time, getting to the powers that be and saying, listen, man, we here. We told you guys we was ready. Now we want you to stand on your word. Floyd Schofield Jr. says, Shakur, be a man of your word. You said, Floyd said, Shakur, you said, if this didn't go through, me and you. And I'm expecting you to stand on that. So we're going to put the words in to Oscar De La Hoya, and we're going to tell Golden Boy and the powers that be to reach out to that team. Shakur, being the A side, really should reach out as well. But we want to see that fight happen. I don't know what you guys think about that fight. Me personally, I've got no issues with it. I think it's a great fight. I think Shakur needs a challenge. You know, you gotta step up to the challenge. You gotta make it happen. But once again, we come back to square one, because square one is Oscar De La Hoya at this point, who found a way to remove Shakur Stevenson, Williams Zepeda out of the conversation. But now your other fighter wants to get in the conversation. And if this card is truly going to be a 5v5 potentially, if we're looking at it potentially being a 5v5 between Matchroom and Golden Boy, then Floyd Schofield pretty much checks all the boxes, right? Or does he? Because what's most important is what Oscar De La Hoya thinks about this situation. Floyd Schofield Sr. one time went on record and said, listen, guys, we're in a partnership deal with Golden Boy. We're not like everybody else. We're our own bosses. We have our own brand. We don't necessarily have to do what Golden Boy says, but look, I'll move forward to say there was an interesting little interview going on with Fight Hot where it seems like Senior was a little bit more honest, a little bit more transparent about the actual role that Oscar De La Hoya plays, and said, listen, man, I'm not going to lie to you guys. Let me retract and be clear. Oscar De La Hoya's invested a lot of money, a lot of time into Floyd Schofield Jr. If he doesn't want this fight to happen, it can get blocked by Oscar, but Oscar is supposed to be somebody who listens to the fighters. He's here for the fighters. He's here to represent the fighters' best interests. Interesting. Represent their best interest, right? But regardless, feel like Oscar and that team should be on board and this fight should get put together. Great fight, I think. Great fight, I think. Great opportunity for Floyd Schofield Jr. to truly test himself. Great opportunity for us as fans. When you hear fighters talking the way these guys have been talking, as far as the Schofields have been talking for the past, year, damn near, it's good to see an opportunity. It's great to see an opportunity for that guy to stand on it. I was okay with seeing Floyd Schofield Jr. fighting Tank Davis as well, or fighting Shakur Stevenson. Makes no difference to me. Fighting one of those guys, I love to see a motivated fighter who thinks he can do it, get in the ring, man. Those guys are just going to put it all out there. And it's something about those Turkey Al-Sheikh card guys, like, those fighters always step up on those cards, right? Because it's an opportunity, probably going to be Floyd Schofield Jr.'s biggest payday ever. And, you know, you get addicted to that feeling. You want to perform and you want Turkey to bring you back. So I think it's a great fight. I mean, I don't know what you guys think about it. I think it's a great fight. Let's see what Shakur Stevenson does. Let's see if Oscar De La Hoya, being in the spot that he's in right now, is going to make a decision for Floyd Schofield that'll let us know what he thinks of Floyd Schofield at this point, right? Because if you believe in Floyd Schofield and you think he is who he thinks he is, then this fight should be a no-brainer. But if we don't see Floyd Schofield in the ring and it's Oscar De La Hoya who does not take and bite and make this happen, then it gives some perspective, and maybe even for the Schofields, I'll give some perspective as to what their own team, their own promotional company thinks about their fighter, right? Because there's no reason for this fight not to get put together. I'm hearing rumors of potentially Eddie Hearn trying to line up Kambosos, which is going to be another part of this conversation that we're going to move into, right? We're going to say if Shakur Stevenson is not able to put this fight together with Floyd Schofield, William Zepeda keeps finding his way out of this fight. Tank Davis hasn't sent Shakur Stevenson an offer, right? Top Rank, for all reasonable argument, doesn't seem like they're going to be doing business with Shakur anytime soon, right? Being that Shakur and Bob Arum kind of left on in an indifferent space. And they seem like they have plans on making Keyshawn Davis that guy over there, and they want to give him an opportunity to get a title fight with a Dennis Baranchek. Then what does Shakur Stevenson do? He's in a division now where his fraternal brother, you can say, and Keyshawn Davis looks like he's about to get a title. He said he's never going to fight Keyshawn. Keyshawn has also replied and said they're never going to fight each other. Undisputed is definitely not an option in that division if Keyshawn Davis picks up a belt and you're not going to fight him, right? Keyshawn is just getting his legs up under him at 135, so I don't see him necessarily making an aggressive move up to 140 unless some huge opportunity pops out there for him. Does Shakur Stevenson take into consideration moving on? Does he take that into consideration? Flyer, I don't know, man. Let's check it out, man. Let me look into that. That's a good question, man. That is a good question. Let's check it out right now. Let's check it out right now. 1 second. 1 second here. Let's see. Let's see. Lightweight. Let's see. WBC. Very interesting. Very interesting. No, sir. Floyd Schofield. I do not see Floyd Schofield in the rankings in the WBC. We could talk about that too, right? There's other opportunities there, but they seem to be top-ranked fighters. Raymond Moritalla could be an opportunity as well. We can talk about that as well. But listen, if it's hard for Shakur to make these fights, at this point, Shakur needs to point at the activity. Does Shakur, at this point, need to consider moving on? And maybe you guys might think moving on from Matchroom, which you obviously know my position on that. But does he consider going up to 140? If he goes up to fight George Kambosos, if that's what Eddie Hearn wants, if that's what Turki Al-Sheikh wants for Shakur Stevenson, and he does move up to 140 to fight a George Kambosos, is this the last time we see Shakur Stevenson at 135 in all reality? Is Shakur Stevenson one of those fighters that's going to go up and down, go up to 140, fight up there, come back to 135, defend his WBC title? Is that what we see Shakur Stevenson doing, chat? I don't know. I'm not too sure. Let me tap into the chat a little bit and see what's going on here. I'm going to start at the bottom. Shout out to N Conquest. Frequency said they pump faking. No. Heat says no. Hannibal says Moritalla's number 2 in the WBC. That's an option. And it is an opportunity for Moritalla to challenge for a championship. But if Raymond Moritalla is over there, where's Raymond Moritalla, guys? Am I crazy? Is he over at Top Rank? I'm pretty sure he's at Top Rank. So is Bob Arum willing to do the business with Shakur Stevenson? I mean, I guess if he's going to put his fighter there to get that money, to go get that belt, give him the assignment, maybe that is a fight that should be able to be made, right? But that kind of gets out of the whole entire atmosphere of that 5v5 that everybody keeps talking about potentially happening. Keep in mind, it's not been confirmed that that's what actually is going on over there. But look, if Shakur Stevenson is not able to secure a fight with a Floyd Schofield or William Zepeda, or, what fighters, what is he going to be over there fighting? What can Matchroom do for him at 135 that makes sense for Shakur Stevenson? I mean, how much more of a tune-up fight is he going to take? Did he fight Andy Cruz? Is that a fight that he's interested in taking? That's a high-risk, low-reward fight, right? I don't know, man. Let me see. Tank is like the poodle, cuz with power and modest ring IQ claim. I don't know. Everything boxing, yo. Shoot up to ETB. Right? No doubt. I don't know, man. Shakur Stevenson has decisions to make, to say the least. because at this point, he has to start wondering if it's going to be, and this comes right back to Jaron Boots Ennis, which we're going to be talking about as well a little bit later. Jaron Boots Ennis having the hardest time unifying his division. It does seem like Shakur's almost falling into the same conversation. If he's not able to truly unify at 135, and if he has no plans of fighting Keyshawn Davis, whether you like it or you don't like it, it doesn't make a difference, right? Because at the end of the day, what's more important is about what he's going to do, not what you want him to do. If he's not going to fight Keyshawn Davis and he's not going to become undisputed at 135, right? And he's having a hard time unifying. We don't know what Tank is going to do when they're going to send an offer over there. Dennis Baranchek seems to be a little bit off the table because of the way Bob Arum looks at it. Bob Arum's going to give the opportunity to Keyshawn Davis. And ultimately, who's the other guy over there that he could fight? And Vasily Lomachenko, we don't even know what he's doing. William Zepeda is getting out of the way. His team is getting him out of the way. It looks like from the outside looking in. It looks like they may be getting him out of the way. What's there for him at 135? At what point does Shakur Stevenson say, listen, man, activity is the most important thing for me at this point. I need to stay busy. I don't get paid for sitting still. If Eddie Hearn is going to use his resources to give Shakur what he has, Eddie Hearn has a lot more resources at 140. He's sitting on Liam Powell, right? He can easily make fights with Richard Hitchinson. Right? I can see him linking up over there and putting him over there, obviously, with George Kambosos. There are opportunities up there at 140. And maybe even Turkey can lean on the conversation a little bit and make the money right for some big fights to happen at 140 to get him in some titles, get him a title, get him a unification title fight up there. Maybe he can chase undisputed up there as well. Devin Haney's up there, guys, right? Teofimo Lopez for now is still up there. I don't know, man. We gotta take a look at it from the back and see at some point from the outside looking in and say, at what point does Shakur Stevenson maybe take that consideration? Shout out to N Conquest in the building, showing love, putting some more color in the chat. I appreciate you, brother, man. Thank you, man. Guys, don't be scared to join them. Throw a little something in the chat, right? Throw a little something in the chat. But that's what I'm looking at. I'm not going to hold you, man. That's what I'm looking at this point. Does Shakur Stevenson need to consider moving on? I think there's a lot of options out there for Shakur. People would like to make it look like he doesn't have a lot of options. Maybe at 135, it does seem a little limited for him as a WBC champion to be sitting out there fighting tune-up fights. Turkey Al-Sheikh only interested in making the biggest fights possible. What are the biggest fights up there that for Shakur Stevenson at 135? I don't know. I mean, there's some fighters there. You still got Mark Chamberlain over there across the pond. He's coming off of a loss, though. I mean, I don't know, man. I don't know. You know what I mean? I don't know. 140 got something for Shakur Stevenson, just like 154 has something for Jaron Boots Ennis. If this is going to be this uphill battle for Shakur Stevenson to be over there with Matchroom for as long as he's been over there right now, which he hasn't been over there for 3 years and all that nonsense, but it does look like, you know, he's having some bad luck over there. And when people want to push back and say that the worst move he ever made was going to Matchroom, I push back and say, I don't know if that's necessarily it, but maybe if he plans on unifying and becoming undisputed at 135, Matchroom wasn't the best look for him. And you got to think to yourself, did Shakur Stevenson take that into consideration when he signed with Matchroom? There were already conversations of him potentially going up to 140. Shakur's already spoke on his willingness to go to 140 and take opportunities up there. So just like Jaron Boots Ennis, who signed with Matchroom, knowing that when he went into that deal with Matchroom, that 147 wasn't showing him any love, that fighters didn't want to give him the opportunity to unify because he's the most dangerous fighter in that division. Did Shakur Stevenson have the same conversation with Eddie Hearn? And has this already been pre-planned to say, listen, you're not going to fight Keyshawn. Keyshawn looks like he's going to be one of those top guys at 135. At some point, you had to entertain the idea that you might need to go up to 140, and are you willing to do it? I don't know. Let me read in the chat and see what's going on in the chat. Let's stay up with the chat here. Shout out to Joseph Johnson in the building. I'm happy to have you here in the building. Hope you guys, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, subscribe to the channel. Definitely don't forget to hit those like buttons. Let's see here. He says, go back to negotiation table with Frank Martin. Maybe, but I'm hearing also that Frank Martin is talking about going to 140. Shoot, I'm hearing Tank Davis is considering going up to 140, according to Floyd Schofield Sr. Whatever his connections are, whatever he's hearing, his people are telling him that Tank Davis may very well be entertaining vacating that WBA title and challenging for a WBA title up in at 140, which is another interesting conversation, being that now I'm hearing rumors that Raul Venezuela and Gary Antoine Russell, listen, so many things going on, right? But ultimately, the opportunities that are at 135 may very well be there at 140 sooner rather than later. Should Shakur Stevenson even consider going up to 140 to start acclimating to the division, get himself a title, and put himself immediately into the conversation of fighting a Tank Davis when he comes up there. Right? Tank going on 40 with a rehydration clause. Sonny Augustine said, I don't know what he's going up there with, right? But it's time for Shakur Stevenson to consider having some real conversations about what he's going to do. I'm interested. I'm always looking. I'm going to keep my eye on it. I won't speculate on it too much further than that. I'll be honest with you. I'm not going to speculate too much further than that, but I think it's interesting, right? But we can move on. Let's see here. We can definitely move on here to the next story that I want to cover here, because I'm not going to stay too long on these things. I'm going to open the panel up later so we can revisit all these topics, and I'm interested in what you guys are thinking about the situations that we're looking at. But moving forward, we're going to look at Jaron Boots Ennis versus Vergil Ortiz Jr. supposedly in the conversation. Another Oscar De La Hoya involvement. Oscar De La Hoya staying pretty relevant this year. When you look at promoters this year, Oscar De La Hoya has been relevant. He's been doing a lot of talking, especially with his Clapback Thursdays and all those things that he's doing. He's staying relevant, and here he goes again. This also going towards that same card on February 22nd, that potential 5v5 with Matchroom and Golden Boy promotion. Jaron Boots Ennis being a Eddie Hearn fighter, and of course Vergil Ortiz Jr. being one of Oscar De La Hoya's top fighters that he's putting a lot of investment in. He's investing a lot of time and energy and resources into making this dude one of the biggest dudes he can make out there. And he is, right? But let's talk about this fight right here. Jaron Boots Ennis coming off of another, I don't want to say lackluster, right? But I'm going to say that it caught a lot of people off guard. A lot of things look like they're becoming consistent with Jaron Boots Ennis as far as the defense is concerned, as far as what the division may have been doing to Jaron Boots Ennis, potentially staying at 147 too long. The IBF title being a title that comes with rehydration clauses. And you know that Jaron Boots Ennis, in my opinion, is one of the bigger fighters at 147 pounds. Him holding that title, defending it against mandatories, but not fighting unification title fights, put him underneath that rehydration clause. And it looks like we might have seen what that looks like against Karen Kukujajan. I hope I'm saying his last name right. In this last fight, and people are now looking at Jaron Boots Ennis as food, right? You got Brian Norman Sr. immediately hitting the social media platforms all across the board saying, I told you so. He said he's pushing for that fight next now. Now that, I don't want to say now that he's seen the hole there, that he's using that as a reason to move forward with the fight, even though he's kind of said that. But at the end of the day, Jaron Boots Ennis has looked human in his last two fights. The fight against Karen, he looked human. The fight against David Avanesian, he looked human, even though he won the fight and ultimately ended up stopping David Avanesian. But once again, we saw him getting hit with a lot of shots that maybe people feel like he shouldn't have gotten hit. I'll be honest with you, from my perspective, that's how I feel. But I do feel like Jaron Boots Ennis may have been suffering for the lack of competition. Not being able to fight against the highest level of competition. Sometimes you watch a fighter potentially digress, get caught up in a lot of bad habits. They're trying to entertain the crowd. They're trying to make bigger fights out of these small fights. He's saying to himself, listen, I know you guys don't want to see me against this guy because this guy isn't who you want me to see him fight, but I'm going to make the fight exciting. And because of that, he's taking more chances, and it potentially may have hurt his pedigree a little bit, right? I mean, the last fight put question on his relationship with Bozy Ennis and everything going over there. And a lot of people, in my opinion, may be going too far with it, right? They may be going too far. But it may be exactly what Jaron Boots Ennis is looking for, being that people will say that he's one of the most ducked fighters in boxing. Maybe these last two performances is a blessing in disguise for Jaron Boots Ennis, as now Oscar De La Hoya seemed very confident on giving him an opportunity to fight on a Turkey Al-Sheikh card, right, with Eddie Hearn, to fight against Vergil Ortiz Jr., who himself in his last fight, we saw some holes in his game. Or did we, right? Because we saw him against Serhii Bohachuk, a fight where a lot of people feel like Vergil Ortiz Jr. lost the fight, but in my opinion, showed a lot of grit in that fight, right? He had to box, go full 12 rounds. This kid may have also suffered from not getting the right competition where he's knocking out the guys he's fighting inside of 1 or 2 rounds, 1 to 3 rounds, and finally got challenged by Serhii Bohachuk. And look, now the game is like, listen, it was his first 154-pound fight. He was doing kind of like a catchweight thing. He had to sit there and fight at 154 pounds for this fight because this was for a WBC interim title against Serhii Bohachuk. So he made the weight. We know his history at 147 as far as his difficulty making the weight and them health problems he had because of that. And he competed at the highest level. He got put down like 2 or 3 times in that fight, but ultimately was able to walk away with a split decision. These guys get to kind of check the boxes if they do put this fight together in Riyhad season on that 5v5, right? Jaron Boots Ennis going up to 154, which a lot of people, including myself, have been looking to see Jaron Boots Ennis do. I wanted to see him leave 147. I'm not going to lie to you. But you have to ask yourself, and I asked myself, man, but yeah, okay, he's getting ready to leave. But now that he's shown the holes in his game, quote unquote, it does seem like the division and the champions in the division have become more open to fighting him. So does he leave now when he finally has an opportunity to potentially unify, at least against a Brian Norman, or does he move on to 154? Or another question, which is something I've been the kind of person who's not been a fan of, is does Jaron Boots Ennis go up to 154, compete up there, but then cut weight, come back to 147, hold his belts, and try to unify at 147? Well, I think we'll see what happens in this fight if this fight gets put together, right? If Jaron Boots Ennis and Vergil Ortiz Jr. is truly a fight that's going to get put together, I think it's a great fight. These two gentlemen could have met at 147. Both of them had their reasons of moving up 154, one being health issues and an inability to cut that weight, the other guy staying there maybe a little too long with hopes of becoming an undisputed champion, with hopes of doing something for his legacy and becoming and heading towards becoming a 2-weight class undisputed champion. Bozy Ennis had a lot of hope for his young bull in Jaron Boots Ennis, and he may be getting forced up, right? Because we finally hear him talking openly like, listen, man, that performance I had against Karen, it might be time for me to move on. Because in all honesty, if Jaron Boots Ennis is just going to be at 147 fighting mandatories and staying underneath that rehydration clause, I don't know why he would stay there, right? If it's unification or go home. Right? It's unification or go home for Jaron Boots Ennis at 147. At 154, legacy is there for you. Big fights are there for you. Big money is there for you. All the boxes get checked at 154. Vergil Ortiz is just the tip of the iceberg. If he's able to make weights of Vergil Ortiz, the opportunities are just going to grow. There's so many huge fights for Jaron Boots Ennis to make at 154, right? So let's see what's happening. Because just like Shakur Stevenson may have to make decisions to move up, it seems like Jaron Boots Ennis might be there right now, finally on board with a lot of the boxing pugilists in the space who have been saying for a long time, it's time for this kid to move from 147, go to 154, challenge himself, because if the challenges that he's been going through have been taken away from his skill set, if he's starting to digress now because of hard weight cuts, because of a lack of competition, then, in all reality, his legacy might be on the line now, and 154 might be the solution that he needs. Let me see what's going on in the chat. Let's build up. Legacy over currency. Salute, my king. I heard you mention legacy, so I had to pop up for the live, sir. Yeah, salute, legacy, salute. His legacy over currency. So for sure, you could say I damn near called you up in the building, man. Salute to you, brother. Sonny Augustine says, let's see here. Let's scroll down to the bottom here. Sonny Augustine says Boots doesn't need to fight in Philly anymore. Claymore, too much distraction there, and also tighten up his defense. Yeah, Boots needs somebody. Boots needs those fights that are going to make him serious, make him a serious boxer again, because it does look like he's been getting caught up in the antics of boxing, playing around in the ring, showboating, talking to the crowd, getting hit with shots he doesn't need to get hit with. It does seem like some bad habits maybe be getting built, and maybe pulling him out of Philly might be the best thing for him at this point. You might be right, man. Ty Morrison says, sounds what's going on with Rafael. Oh, man, Espinosa at 122nd. At 126, he wants to unify, or is he going to eventually have to move up? We're going to talk about that as well, being that Rafael Espinosa has a huge fight coming up against Robeisy Ramirez. And yeah, they're all rumors once again. These fighters who are not getting challenged properly, making these hard weight cuts, they need to move into their proper weight classes. And, he's a big dude for 126. So I agree with you, Tom Morris said. It might be time for him to move up to 130. I hope we can talk about that another time as well, because I wonder if that's going to affect his mentality going into this fight against Robeisy Ramirez, right? If he already knows he has one foot out the door and he's heading to 130, what kind of Rafael Espinosa are we going to see in that sequel to a fight of the year candidate, Robeisy Ramirez versus Rafael Espinosa last year? We'll talk about that another time. I don't even know if we're going to get to that on this show, but I agree with you, man. Might be the same thing. A lot of fighters, man, and I've talked about this before in older shows about activity, B, also staying in weight classes too long. That hurts a lot of these fighters sometimes. People will reasonably accredit Errol Spence's issue with Terrence Crawford to staying at 147 too long, right? So staying in a weight class too long, it just doesn't benefit the fighter if he's there too long, right? Salute to DGO 82. Let me go some of these chats right here, man. Bub Boxing, salute. I hope I said what's up to you, Bub Boxing. I don't know if I did, but if I didn't. Bub Boxing says Shakur needs to move up and fight the winners. Haney lost. So fight Ryan Garcia and Puello Oparo. Haney was fighting the loser of fights. Tio beat Loma. Haney fight Loma. Let's change that. Yeah. Look, man, there's a lot of legacy and things going on at 140. And, you know, people want Shakur Stevenson to kind of hang back and have his whole career surrounding around an opportunity to fight Tank Davis. I don't subscribe to that. You know, listen, man, Tank Davis is considered a face of boxing. He's a great fighter, but you can't build your whole entire career around one fighter. It doesn't make any sense. And just like Devin Haney had to ultimately make the decision to go up to 140 and stop waiting, and people will argue that he stayed at 135 a little bit too long, right? You can't sit there and wait on a fighter. If Tank wants to fight, his team knows what to do. They can send out the offers. They can make it happen. With rumors of Tank potentially going up to 140, people are pushing for it. Shout out to Showbiz, who says he believes his biggest challenge is up there at 140 as well. Shakur Stevenson it may be time for him to take into consideration moving up to 140. Eddie Hearn has a lot of opportunities for him up there at 140. He can make a lot of money, obviously, if Turkey is excited about getting behind Shakur Stevenson and pushing him forward as well. It doesn't make sense for him to hang out at 135 too long if really, in all reality, he's not going to even be getting the fights that he needs to get to make his legacy on point and even get him his biggest paydays, right? So something to think about. Something to think about. You know what I mean? Let's see here. Let's see. Teach said Boots moved for activity. Knowing this, Shakur moved for activity and to get paid. There's no secret. This is something the other promotions can't offer them, especially PBC activity. 100% Teach. 100%. I love my community, man. I'm telling you guys, you don't understand. I love having these conversations about boxing. There's so much boxing to talk about. I don't understand how. Anyway, 100% Teach. I agree with you 100%, right? So at the end of the day, what does it come down to? It looks like Oscar De La Hoya has some decisions to make. He's been building up his fighters. He's been building up his own brand. Turkey Al-Sheikh has built a relationship with him. Turkey Al-Sheikh has already spoken to Oscar De La Hoya of potentially putting Vergil Ortiz in big fights. At one point, it was Terrence Crawford. Now it's Jaron Boots Ennis. But Oscar seems like he's been able to kind of get away from making the biggest fights in a little bit, right? He found a way to get Vergil Ortiz out of the Terrence Crawford fight because Terrence Crawford was so focused on Canelo Alvarez, it kind of saved Vergil Ortiz a little bit. And I'm not going to say saved Vergil. It saved Oscar De La Hoya. Because Oscar De La Hoya is in a position right now to where some of his best fighters are going to get ready to be in some of their biggest fights. And how confident are you in your fighters? We just saw Zerto Ramirez beat on Chris Billiam Smith. He's now a unified champion. The next fight naturally is going to be against Jai Opetaia, right? He's the best in the division. Are you ready to pull the trigger on these big fights? Vergil Ortiz now coming off of a performance like Serhii Bohachuk. Some people would say it's reasonable to argue that Oscar De La Hoya might be interested in getting Vergil Ortiz maybe a tune-up fight. That fight was a hard fight for him, and a lot of people thought he lost that fight. A lot of people. I'm not going to lie to you. When I rewatched it, I went with Serhii Bohachuk for the win in that fight in a very close fight, but I had it 7-5 for Serhii Bohachuk, right? How confident is Oscar De La Hoya to send Vergil Ortiz into this fight with Jaron Boots Ennis? Well, time will tell. The industry's not waiting on Oscar De La Hoya to pull the trigger on this. They're already putting pressure on him and saying they're putting pressure on the fight and bringing attention to the fight. Jaron Boots Ennis has already pulled the trigger and let Eddie Hearn know it's full speed ahead. Let's make that happen. And then we have Floyd Schofield and William Zepeda. You thought you got out of it with William Zepeda. Maybe you did with the hand injury. But Floyd Schofield, senior and junior, being social media, their presence on social media is going up, and up. Them communicating that they want to fight the same way William Zepeda communicated they wanted to fight with Shakur Stevenson. Them communicating they want that fight to go up, saying that they put the word in there that they want to fight Shakur next. What are you going to do now, Oscar? What are you going to do now? Are you going to pull the trigger and put these fights together? There's decisions to be made. You've built up a whole entire brand behind yourself with your Clapback Thursdays. You've kicked in Eddie Hearn's back for having such a horrible year as far as his fighters losing. Now it's time for you to put your fighters to the test. Is that what Oscar De La Hoya is going to do? Is he going to pull the trigger, put these contracts out there, right? Put these offers out there. Let Turki Al-Sheikh put that money up. You have no excuses on the money, and be part of one of the biggest cards of the first quarter of next year, and put your biggest fighters against Matchroom's biggest fighters. And let's see a crazy 5v5 and see if Eddie Hearn can get some redemption, right? Being that he's been doing so horrible against Queensberry. Him and Oscar De La Hoya have built up this animosity. It'd be great to see these fights getting put together. Let's see what ends up happening, right? Let's see what ends up happening. Moving on. Let's move on from that conversation and talk a little bit about Clarissa Shields versus Cameron and what is going on in that situation, right? Man, guys, I'm be honest with you. This is more like comic relief. This Clarissa Shields versus Cameron and Amanda Serrano. I'm gonna say like this, man. Clarissa Shields is a great fighter, man. She's done a lot of great things in the sport. A GWOAT in her own right, right? And Amanda Serrano and Katie Taylor in their own right have GWOAT qualities as well, right? Clarissa Shields taking an opportunity to not potentially, but to correct Cameron on some misinformation he might have as far as what really is versus what isn't is one thing, right? But I do think that at the end of the day, letting a fighter have their moment in the light, there's nothing wrong with it. And Clarissa Shields' instinct is always to push back at anything that may take away from her GWOAT status. And unfortunately for Clarissa Shields, she hasn't had all the opportunity in the world, right? She's in weight classes that don't have that much competition. She's been able to accomplish a lot in a little bit of time as far as becoming undisputed in multiple weight class divisions, now becoming a champion in the heavyweight division. And she wants her respect, but at the end of the day, she can only do what she can do, right? She's diversified herself and went into mixed martial arts and competed up there, and looking like she's moving forward. That has a movie coming out, I believe, next month. She has a movie coming out. I'll be watching it. I'm interested in knowing about the T-Rex story. But, you know, this instinct to always kick in and jump into other people's moments could start looking bad for her. I'm not going to lie to you. If a conversation is going on about Amanda Serrano and her accomplishments and she's being celebrated, I don't know if it's necessary for you to jump into that conversation and get into, you know, stealing the light from her, right? The ability to allow somebody else to shine, you know, that might be easier said than done. But I'll be light on it and say, listen, man, Clarissa is a GWOAT. Amanda is a GWOAT to me. I think we need to start speaking about GWOATs and stop making this whole woke thing the big deal that it is. The one that can only be one, the whole Highlander theory. I think it's starting to look like hatred. And, you know, women, I think women boxing benefits a lot more from you guys pushing each other up and celebrating each other rather than constantly making it a competition for the #1 spot. You know what I mean? I think it's too early in women boxing to do that. I think women boxing is starting to finally catch legs. Shout out to Jake Paul for even showcasing and giving a platform for Amanda Serrano and Katie Taylor to show the world what great women boxing could look like. Alicia Baumgardner, you know what I'm saying? Clarissa Shields, a lot of great fighters in this space who are doing things, you guys need to push each other up. So I don't know what's going on. As far as the Cameron situation is concerned, look, man, I'm gonna be real, of course. Cameron is not the one to be playing with when it comes to this social media ish talking. The man is a skilled veteran when it comes to talking that ish. That's just Harlem energy, man. This is what happens. Right? This Harlem energy. You tapping into getting into it with Cameron. I'm gonna be honest with you. I just don't think that's the greatest thing for your career. You know what I mean? I don't know if that helps you. I don't know. You know, time will tell the story. Hindsight is always way more 2020 than foresight, but that's how I feel about it. But I'm not going to get too much deeper in it because it's really not that much. It's not great. It's not that much boxing news in it. Clarissa is doing what she always does. I don't think she needs to sit there and do what she does all the time as far as looking, you know, I want to fight men. You know, I mean, I want to, you know, I'm the GWOAT. Nobody else should be using the word. I don't know, man. Just stay active, stay doing what you do. We celebrate you, Queen. We see you out there. I know sometimes it may look like we don't see you, right? Maybe it looks like we talk. I don't know what it looks like from your perspective, but attacking, you know what I mean, attacking all the time, being the one, especially with a fighter who's not even in your weight class, you can't even actually fight them for real. I mean, come on, man. Right? That's how I feel about it. I'm going to leave it right there, man. I'm not going to go no further with it. I want to go into the middleweight division a little bit, guys. Let's talk about Hamza Shiraz. Shiraz, right? Do you know who Hamza Shiraz is? Hamza Shiraz, a middleweight division fighter coming out of the UK, really has been making his presence felt via Turkey, right? via Turkey Al-Sheikh on Riyhad season, has been part of some decent performances. But more importantly, now is in title contention right now and has an opportunity to challenge for a title. In the beginning, the rumor was that we were going to see Hamza Shiraz versus Janibek on a Riyadh season card. But something changed. I don't know what changed. Whatever it is that pushed it, people can have their rumors and their reason to believe whatever they want to believe. But now Hamza supposedly in a conversation fighting Carlos Adames, the current WBC champion, in the middleweight division, keeping in mind that Carlos Adames was upgraded to a full champion based on what? Jamal Charlo leaving the division, right, and vacating his belt. But Carlos Adames, the current WBC champion, in the same division, obviously, with an Erislandy Lara, who's a WBA champion, and obviously Janibek, who holds an IBF title up there. And I believe he might be unified with maybe like an IBF and IBO title. I know people don't like to acknowledge the IBO championship up there. But listen, man, at the end of the day, Hamza Shiraz is a huge talent. And he might be exactly what the middleweight division needs right now, right? If you guys watch him, if you haven't watched him, you need to go watch him, man. He's an impressive fighter. Let me pull up his stats a little bit here just to be kind of one second here. Let's pull up his stats, because I think what's interesting about Hamza Shiraz is that this dude is like 6'3", right? He brings that towering inferno kind of energy. But, you know, the division isn't filled with a bunch of short people, but Hamza Shiraz has that power, like an 80% knockout ratio, and he really has that skill set, that high pedigree of boxing. He knows how to stay behind that jab. He knows how to deliver that right hand, right? An orthodox fighter coming out of the United Kingdom might be exactly what the division needs to bring it full circle. I think in his last, like, I don't know how many fights, it's been like straight TKOs and knockouts for this kid. I don't know how many. Let's look on his record here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, 10. His last 10 straight fights have been TKOs. Most notably, his last fight against Tyler Denny, and then we all know what happened with Ammo. He caught him in the late rounds, right? Ammo Williams, in a very competitive fight, got caught in the late rounds and finally stopped. But with Tyler Denny, stopped him in second round of a 12-round fight. So put himself in a conversation right now. Supposedly negotiations are supposed to be moving forward between him and Carlos Adames. I would think it's not far-fetched that he's going to be going into that fight the favorite, right? The favorite in that fight. So we'll see what that turns out. Eyes on Hamza, because if Hamza's able to win that fight and become a WBC title holder, then you would naturally think that him and Janibek would probably be going at each other and unifying, which I think is a smart move when you look at it. Getting him the easier of the fights is nothing horrible in that. It's not to say that Hamza's scared of Janibek, but for him to go ahead and be able to pick up a WBC title against a real opponent in Carlos Adames, a real great Cuban background boxer in Carlos Adames, pulling that WBC championship over him and then going into a unification title with Janibek pushes the fight to a whole nother level, right? Brings a lot more eyes to the fight. Unification title fights are always great. And it looks like his team might be on that, right? Looks like his team might be on that time with Hamza Shiraz. So we're going to be looking out for that fight as well. Let's see. Let's keep it moving. And then there's Errol Spence Jr. Errol Spence Jr. Let's talk about Errol, guys. So news going out that Errol Spence Jr. for the past how long has been talking about fighting against Sebastian Fundora. We know the moment, right? We remember the moment. Do I have it here still? Let me see if I still have it here. When Errol made his big debut in the ring. Do I have it here? Is this it right here? Let's check it out.
Errol, come and join us right here.
Hey, what's going on?
You said you would like to fight the winner of this fight. Well, here he is. What do you have to say?
I was trying to get it on. He got the beat dog now. Let's go.
That's what we remember, guys, right? We remember this, right? A real interesting moment. I won't build the story up. You guys know how I love to build a story up, but I won't build the story up. I'll just say that on that night, Errol Spence made his return to boxing, supposedly. As we all thought that, we were expecting to see Errol Spence and Sebastian Fundora get put together and see the return. Now, you guys could go back into the archives. I've always been against this fight. I feel like he's been out of the ring for a long time. I want to see him take a tune-up, but we know Errol Spence doesn't believe in tune-ups. That's not what he does. He only wants to be part of the biggest fights. One would argue, not just for the challenge, but also the paydays that sit on the other side of those huge fights. And look, what we think doesn't matter. It's all about what the fighters think. And according to that video right there that we saw, we all were under the understanding that Errol Spence wanted to fight Sebastian Fundora, challenge and become a unified champion, being that Sebastian Fundora held both WBO and WBC titles on the back end of a victory, a very close split decision victory over Tim Tszyu. And Errol putting himself right back in the conversations of not only becoming a unified champion, but even potentially us seeing him and Terrence Crawford, right, who was also in the conversation to challenge Sebastian Fundora, really was going to be Tim Tszyu, right, for that WBO title, being that the WBO put that mandatory on there, made Terrence Crawford the mandatory. We also know that Terrence Crawford went up to 154, so everybody was more than excited to see that fight, no matter what doubts you had in your mind. But it's been getting pushed out and pushed out. Rumors of Sebastian Fundora fighting Terrence Crawford. Rumors going back to Sebastian fighting Errol Spence. Sebastian Fundora in his own interview saying that this fight was in negotiation with Errol Spence, that the rumors in the streets weren't real. Him and Spence were still expected to meet up, probably in Dallas Cowboys Stadium, where Big Jerry gets to put on the big show like he did for Jake Paul and Mike Tyson, right? But it hasn't been coming full circle. Why? Why hasn't it been coming full circle? I have my own ideas of why, but there have been rumors about paydays and guaranteed money and the PBC having a slow year potentially being part of the reason as to why Errol Spence hasn't made his return. But at the end of the day, Errol Spence at this point, being that he has no fight on schedule, keep in mind that Errol Spence has also gone through some surgeries and left his trainer, Derek James. We don't even know who his new trainer is going to be. Is Errol Spence going to retire at this point? Do we even consider him retired at this point? Will he be making a return like a Danny Garcia? When you think about these fighters that have stayed out for as long as Errol Spence has stayed out, have they come back successful, the same fighters? We just watched Danny Garcia pretty much give one of the worst performances I've seen in a long time for a fighter of his caliber against an Erislandy Lara, not coming out of the corner, sitting out the ring for like 2.5 years. Errol Spence going on 2 years, meaning that July 29th, I want to say 2023 was the last time he fought. What do you guys think about Errol Spence at this point? I mean, it's beyond, I see somebody putting here Turkey. It's beyond the money at this point, right? Because the money's one part of it. At some point, somebody might be able to get him the money he wants. But is he even the same Errol Spence at this point? Who is Errol Spence? And him getting inside the ring with a towering inferno just seems crazier and crazier as the time goes by. Meanwhile, holding up Sebastian Fundora from defending his title in other ways. Terrence Crawford, so focused on Canelo Alvarez, doesn't seem like he has interest in fighting Sebastian Fundora either. We just saw Errol Spence put out a video, supposedly on a vacation. Him and Frank Martin looked like he was in great shape aesthetically. But we all know that's not necessarily the truth. What it looks like isn't always what it is. Errol Spence sitting out of boxing for as long as he's been sitting out, at some point, we have to start entertaining the conversation that Errol Spence may not be coming back to boxing. He responded on social media saying that he hasn't heard from anybody in months. Who's anybody? We'd have to argue that it's the PBC that he hasn't heard from. Tom Brown, the people who coordinate his career and give him the fights and give him the opportunities. We have to say that him responding to somebody who was celebrating the idea of him actually making his return to fight against Sebastian Fundora and responding to that with saying that you're living in Dreamville, nobody's reached out to me in months. What's going on over there with Errol Spence? I'll give you guys my quick opinion and keep it 100. You can push back at it. I'll be opening up the panel. You guys can shoot at me if that's what you want to do. It's all good. I think Errol Spence is in needing of a payday. I think what motivates him is that money right now. He's done what he's done. Could he do more? 100%. But at the end of the day, he's focused on a payday. And when you pay him as much as you paid him to fight Terrence Crawford, it's hard to believe that he's going to go too much more lower than that pay. And I'm wondering if the PBC has actually set up any type of contingencies that protect Errol Spence to get him the money that he wants. Errol Spence is watching the PBC make big money moves with Canelo Alvarez, getting him the biggest guarantees under the PBC banner. He's watching Gervonta Tank Davis supposedly have deals made with Amazon north of $200 million, guaranteeing him X amount of dollars per fight. Where's his guarantee? I think there's a lot going on in the background when it comes to Errol Spence, when it comes to that money, and I think it might be getting in the way. But more importantly, as the money's getting in the way, he's also getting cold. He's ice cold now, as far as I'm concerned. Is the PBC believe in Errol Spence enough to put the money behind him? The longer he stays out the ring, I mean, there's arguments to say that they didn't believe in him to even do a rematch with Terrence Crawford, got in the way of that situation. So how interested are they in paying Errol Spence top dollar to fight Sebastian Fundora, right? And what kind of attention does that bring in? I don't know. I don't know, man. You know what I mean? Something to take into consideration. I'm looking at it. I'm not going to go too much deeper and speculate into it, but I do think we all need to take in consideration and be real that Errol Spence at this point has been out the ring for a long time, and it will be 2 years in July. And he has no fight scheduled for the upcoming February or March. We don't know yet, at least. The card for Gervonta Tank Davis hasn't been put out there yet. There have been some ideas of what fights are going to be on the undercard, but I haven't heard anything about Errol Spence going to be on that card. So when does Errol Spence come back? April, May, June, July? We'll take a look at it as it unfolds. You guys let me know what you think when I open up the panel. Moving on to Conor Benn versus Eubank Jr. is also in the works. Conor Benn looks like he might be done with this whole entire substance ban, PD issue that he had. And it looks like him and Chris Eubank Jr. are in the works. More than likely to happen in Riyhad. The only questions I have for this fight is what weight class is this fight happening? Chris Eubank Jr. has made it clear that he doesn't want to cut weight anymore. He's having a hard time doing it. Conor Benn is naturally a 147, 140-pound fighter. He's competed at 154. Their fight that they were going to have when Conor Benn popped on his PD test was supposedly supposed to be like 157, 154. I don't know what it was going to be. A very tough weight cut for Chris Eubank Jr. And he basically said, listen, you've eliminated that opportunity for yourself by being a dishonorable fighter. He's no longer interested in cutting the weight, but Conor Benn wants his fight more than anything. So what ends up happening? You know what I mean? Does Conor Benn go up to 168? Ultimately is a big question and compete with Chris Eubank Jr. at 168. And is that a good idea for Conor Benn, right? Being that that's not his weight class that he fights in at all. Or does Chris Eubank Jr. compromise and maybe meet Conor Benn at 160? It doesn't look like he's going to. Interviews that I've seen with Chris Eubank has said that he's not even interested in going down to 160 anymore, that the weight cut is too bad for him. I've seen Chris Eubank Jr.'s father speak on it, Chris Eubank Sr., say that he also doesn't like the idea of his son cutting that weight. And I've seen Conor Benn's father, Nigel Benn, comment on that he feels like Conor Benn should have no problem going up to 168. He feels that Conor Benn walks around 168, 175 when he's not in camp. So he feels like that shouldn't be a problem. But Nigel, when he's not in camp, he's not in camp. It may be reasonable to argue that he's not in boxing shape at 168, 175. But they seem like they want this fight no matter what. I think the payday is also part of it. Turki Al-Sheikh being involved in this conversation when it comes to what's going on with Conor Benn now and Chris Eubank Jr. The money's going to be great money. If this fight does happen, in my opinion, there's a good chance that we're going to see it happen at 168 if it happens at all, which I don't know if it's good for Conor Benn because I know he wants to ultimately come back down to 147. He's spoken of wanting to compete for a WBC title down there and compete with the likes of Jaron Boots Ennis and those people who don't look like they're going to be there much longer. But that going up to 168 and come back to 147, I'm not a fan of that. I'm not a fan of that, but we'll see what they do, right? Back in the news. What else is going on in the news? Oh, yeah, Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder. What do you guys think about that fight? Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder. I'll be honest with you. When Anthony Joshua lost his fight against Daniel Dubois, in my mind, I said, people were bringing up Deontay Wilder at that point, and I said, listen, Deontay Wilder is a dangerous fighter, no matter how you want to look at it. Although he's had 2 lackluster performances and he got stopped in his last performance, he is the bronze bomber still, and all he has to do get that switch back on. If he gets back into who he's supposed to be, he's a dangerous man. And Anthony Joshua has made a lot of money in boxing. You would think that when you hear Anthony Joshua talking right now, it seems like he's always talking about legacy, right? And I don't know how much legacy there is in him fighting Deontay Wilder, but I'll tell you this, Anthony Joshua did say something very interesting at the end of the fight of Zhilei Zhang and Deontay Wilder when Zhilei Zhang knocked out Deontay, right? He said he would still fight Deontay Wilder. That fight wasn't off the table for him because he says this is a fight about fighting the best and legacy and people wanting to see the fight. He wants to give the fans what they want to see. So where I was very negative against that fight because I just didn't see the legacy in it. And I also felt like these fighters are so out of their prime. That version of Deontay Wilder that I saw fight against Zhilei Zhang, the version of him that I saw fight against Joseph Parker, I'm not really fond of the relationship between Malik Scott and Deontay Wilder. I think Malik Scott is a great person in his own right, but I don't know if that chemistry is working for Deontay Wilder's brand of who he is as far as a dangerous fighter in the ring. I haven't seen that dangerous side of Deontay Wilder in there ever since Malik has been there. I mean, if you want to count the fight Deontay had with Robert Helenius, that's on you. I thought that fight was too short to really pull away any type of anything in there for me to gauge what's going on between Malik Scott and Deontay Wilder. But look, Deontay put out a video a few weeks ago saying that he's not done. He's staying in boxing, pretty much putting the whole space on notice that he's going nowhere. So Deontay Wilder versus Anthony Joshua, coming off of also a big loss, getting knocked out by Daniel Dubois. It could make sense. It could make sense. And maybe that is what we'll be looking forward to. Me personally, I thought that Anthony Joshua, if you're not competing for a title, if you're not competing to become unified, fighting either the winner between Tyson Fury and Alexander Usyk, or even if Tyson Fury loses that fight, fighting him has a little bit more legacy to it, in my opinion, than Deontay Wilder, or rematching Daniel Dubois to get yourself back into the conversation of being a title contender. I don't know if he needs to be staying in boxing much longer, right? Because at that point, if you stay a little too long in the heavyweight division, it's a dangerous division. Everybody's punching hard, especially a Deontay Wilder. You might want to take consideration about your health as well when you're making these decisions. But we'll be looking forward to see what Anthony Joshua has planned. And is there anything else? No, that's it. Right? Welcome back. I had it all lined up. Welcome back to the ATP Combat Community. Let's build. What I'm going to do is I'm going to throw in the link in the chat. You guys let me know what you're thinking, what's on your mind. The show's been going great. We've been going on for about an hour and a half. I have been trying to shorten the length of the show too as well. All these 3-4 hour marathon campaigns, I'm not really into it like that. I want it to be just strictly about some boxing. I don't know if there's any topics that we haven't covered that you guys wanted to cover. I'm gonna go through the chat as well while the link is out there. If anybody wants to come up here and build on anything, let's see what you guys have been talking in the chat, because I know I've been running my mouth and I ain't really been paying attention to this here. Let me see. So if Moratala was to entertain a Shakur fight, I think Bob wouldn't back him. Similarly, how he didn't back B. Norman Jr. because it just wasn't in their plans. Yeah, man. Once again, back to that Keyshawn, back to the Shakur Stevenson conversation, right, Ty? If it's going to be difficult for him to put these fights together at this point in Shakur Stevenson's career, this is prime time. He has a 2-fight deal with Matchroom. You want to get those fights out the way. He becomes a free agent after that. I don't know if he re-signs with Matchroom, but if the opportunities just aren't there, he might consider moving up to 140. You know what I mean? It's just, if 135 is going to play out like this, then he might just consider moving to 140. You know what I'm saying? Salute to my guy teaching the bill. Are you there, Teach? Teach my beginners, Mike.
What's going on, Claymore?
I'm doing good, brother. How you doing today, man?
Good. And salute to the chat as well.
No doubt. What's on your mind? Yo, by the way, Teach, are you we talked about it. Where are you from again?
The Caribbean.
Right. But what is it? You said it before. I don't know. Are you calling from the Caribbean, or are you just in America and you're just from the Caribbean?
Yeah, I live in the States, man. I live in New York.
Okay, perfect. Okay, all right, brother. But what's on your mind, man? What's on your mind, King? So much boxing.
Yeah, so with the Shields argument, right? Or the Shields comment. I mean, I see things a little different.
Okay.
So the way I see it is like Shields feels like she pretty much is a pioneer for women's boxing, right? And her concern goes beyond just her skills in the ring. Like, we know what Clarissa does in the ring. Like, she's the GOAT in the ring. She's been undisputed multiple times, right? But the thing is, like, she advocates for, equal pay, equal promotion, like equal airtime for female boxers, which is why she supports like the 3-minute rounds, right? Pretty much because it aligns with men's boxing. So her frustration to me stems from like Amanda receiving recognition for similar efforts, while Shield feels like her efforts like to push sport forward aren't receiving the same recognition, right? So that to me is where her frustration comes in, not because of her accolades in the ring, right? Because everybody knows that she's a GOAT. So that to me is the issue. did I think that she should have inserted herself in the conversation? I think no. She should have just left it. Let Amanda and Katie receive the praise. Just knowing in your heart that you had something to do with pushing female female boxing forward should be good enough for her in my opinion. So I mean let the guys let Amanda and Katie have their limelight. It shouldn't be an issue.
Yeah.
Much with the whole Shakur thing, we know why Shakur moved to Matchroom, pretty much because their ideals aligned with what he wanted to do. Get paid, get some type of global recognition, right?
Mm-hmm.
So since the Zepeda fight is off, um, whoever Shakur fights is gonna be whoever Shakur fights at this point. It's only a 2-fight deal. So get these 2 fights out of the way and then, you know, move on to big and better, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
PBC wasn't gonna offer Shakur a good deal in my opinion. Obviously, you won't get the activity. You won't get the activity at PBC,
Mm-hmm.
and most likely they wouldn't pay him what he wanted. Oscar pretty much said that because Shakur sat down with Oscar, and Oscar pretty much said, Shakur is not the boxer that they want, right? Um, and so Eddie was the only choice. Top rank, Top rank said that they would pay him pretty much pay him to be back on Top rank, but they weren't offering the fights that he wanted. So obviously he's gonna go towards the matchroom. So
Mm-hmm.
people want to make it a big deal. It's only 2 fights. Let him get the 2 fights out of the way, and that should be good enough. If you were to ask me who Shakur should fight,
Mm-hmm.
um, and I was on ETB's channel, and he brought up some good points, and I agree with him. Um, I think Frank Martin should be one of the guys he should ask for, and I think De Los Santos
At
also,
140 or 135?
and that's the thing. I think at 135. But
Okay.
that's up to Frank Martin, right? Because I know Frank Martin wants to move to 140.
Right.
Um, but again, for Frank, I mean, you get one big payday with Tank, you get another payday with Shakur at 135,
Mm-hmm.
right? And with De Los Santos, that's a good fight because this is like
Redemption.
the rematch everybody wanted to see, and we want to see what Shakur looks like with 2 good hands against Santos.
Right.
Obviously, and what the result is going to be. I think Shakur is going to win again and make it look easy.
Right.
But yeah, those are the 2 fights. As for Floyd, I mean, if Shakur wants that fight and if they could get it, I'm good with it. Only because Floyd was calling him out first.
Right.
And there shouldn't be any roadblock with that fight, in my opinion.
Right.
It's up to
Do you think?
Floyd.
Do you think if there's a roadblock in that, at some point, we're going to point fingers at somebody when we see these fights not coming together? That's how it always ends up, right? Do you think that Oscar De La Hoya at some point starts getting some bad attention if this particular fight between Schofield and Shakur doesn't happen?
Yeah, I mean, he's getting bad attention now because the Zepeda fight isn't happening.
Mm-hmm.
And that fight can happen because it's a sanctioned fight. So
Mm-hmm.
promotion shouldn't even get in the way of that fight happening. But like he's deliberately doing it with Zepeda. He's deliberately doing it with Schofield. So
Right. And people could argue that, people were trying to argue. I don't know, because I think there's arguments go either way. But as far as Vergil Ortiz and Terrence Crawford was concerned, I don't know if you guys recall when Turkey Al-Sheikh was in there speaking to Oscar about the Vergil and Terrence Crawford fight. It did seem like Oscar tried to resist it a little bit, but ended up like capitulating to to what Turkey wanted. But saying that was the fight that was going to happen, but literally the next day coming out being like, listen, man, we're going to have to think about it and put it together and do what's best for Vergil. It was just like, are you trying to get Vergil out of it again? It does seem like when it comes to the biggest fights being made with his fighters, it does seem like he finds a way in the last minute to kind of come up with reasons as to why, those fights don't need to happen. William Zepeda being another one. And obviously if Floyd Schofield Jr. Is not getting what he wants, clearly he's making it clear that that's what he wants. At some point, I think we will have a right to point our fingers in that direction. Let me bring Robert Chandler into the conversation as well. Salute Robert Chandler in the building.
What's going on, man?
Man, chilling. How you feeling, man? Oh, you know what? Let me read Tom Morris said a comment real quick because I do think it has something to do with the conversation. It said Shakur going to 140 to compete would be bittersweet for me because he just be handing his belt over to Zepeda for free. It's not like Eddie would pay for a Puello fight. He's talking about 140. Obviously, Puello holding that WBC title up there as well, right? So, yeah, interesting. But what's on your mind, Mr. Chandler? What's on your mind today?
Man, just the state of boxing, man. It's just insane. It's disappointing. I think we don't realize how fragile the state is of boxing because with ESPN not back in Top Rank anymore, you already know what happened with Showtime, year and a half ago. And we've seen as a display for the PBC this year, which was horrendous. And as far as just activity and the fights that's given. And I get the business side on their side, but it's just the output. I'm just focused on the output from the fan view, from a boxing fan view. And it's just, and then for Turkey, honestly, it's really, in my opinion, it's honestly has boxing. It's really keeping boxing off of life support. If you think about it, the last year and a half, if you take away his fights, what do we have? So, and I'm looking like, and it doesn't seem like the situation with PBC and Amazon is getting any better, at least for right now. And then the other thing I want to touch on was just with the Shakur Zepeda. It wasn't a shock. I had put in the super chat with Blue. I think you was on that day or whatever. I didn't feel even when it was thought about that Zepeda was going to find a way because of he didn't accept the Shakur fight at that time, wasn't ready. But then as soon as Shakur gets with Cadena. Then all of a sudden he schedules a fight. And I will say this, I've learned a lot the past few years, especially, coming from Blue and then obviously, learning about you as well. I'm supportive. And I like that you guys have similar, but also different contrast views and give two different perspectives. I really like that. But I've learned from Blue specifically as far as how these promoters, sometimes they will take the weight from the fighters getting the backlash. There was multiple interviews where Oscar a year ago wanted Zepeda to take that Shakur fight. And then it was Zepeda's team that said, well, we need to go back and this and that. Then you hear Oscar come back and say, well, there's some, we're going through all our options. You get the corporate response. So I'm learning that what Oscar, he even hinted to it in his clapback Thursday, that it's the fighters. It's not the promoters. It's the fighters. And so he's obviously going to protect his brand and his fighters that he signed and he's invested in. And so that was the other thing that I've learned a lot. I think it's the Zepeda team really do not like that matchup. And they're more so like, hey, we can pick up some easy paydays. And like the guy who had the message up, they know that Shakur is going to be leaving the division. And then Zepeda is like number one for all the belts. So as soon as somebody leaves, he can challenge. And then the last thing I wanted to just say is that it's very unfortunate because I feel like this is going to be Shakur's last year at 135. In my, and I'm not going back as far as back in the day. I've never seen such an excellent fighter just not get like big fights and just so of course you can mention Boots. I know he's been trying, but I think Shakur for the longest, ever since he's been trying. He had to hawk Oscar Valdez for like 2 years before he got that fight. And really the issue is going to be, he's probably gonna have to do a Devin Haney and do just one-off fights with different promotional companies just to get it. And because I don't see anyone stepping in the ring. And the unfortunate part where I was going with it is I hate that I feel like Tank is going to offer Shakur once he's moved up. Once he's moved up to 140, I think then they'll offer Shakur the fight, but he's going to have to come back down. But that's just my, I'm kind of, and it's not necessarily Tank, just how their team operates, right, and so forth, because there's just no reason for this. And it seems like that fight may not happen even afterwards. Like he'll probably get the Rio or, some other fight after this. And it's just, he only going to fight once or twice next year. So it's just, right. I feel for Shakur, whether you like him or hate him. It's just that he's just such a great boxer and great potential for the sport, but no one's really signing up for that fight.
Man, well articulated, brother. That was really worthy. You touched on a lot of topics, man. As far as Shakur Stevenson is concerned, yeah, man, bad luck. And it does, for me personally, just kind of add to what you're saying. When we saw Shakur Stevenson, Gervonta Tank Davis, Devin Haney, Ryan Garcia, when we first looked at these guys years ago, we always thought in our mind that these guys had a path to run into each other. We always thought those were going to be the biggest and the greatest fights to be made. But as time goes by and it just continues to go by and it continues to go by, the fights are starting to get dusty, right? They're starting to get dusty. And at some point, it starts to look like maybe these guys are holding themselves up a little bit off the strength of this fight, because there's other fights to be made out there. There's other legacy to be made. Gervonta Tank Davis, in my opinion, and not to say that he's a limited fighter, but just to say he's a small guy, right? So his opportunities, 135, 140, if he wants to stretch and go really hard at 147, which I don't see happening. But Shakur Stevenson, Devin Haney, right, Ryan Garcia clearly have shown that 135 may not be the division where their legacy is necessarily the biggest at. Ryan Garcia being north of 154 now, he has thrown challenges at David Benavidez. Take it for a grain of salt because he's had his antics involved in how he talks, but clearly being very clear that 135 is just like so far in the rearview mirror. 140 is obviously a stretch for him as well. Where does him and Tank cross lines at, right? Shakur Stevenson, you can see that he can do 140 pretty easily, right? Does he do 147? Maybe. I haven't heard him talk about it too much, but he's a bigger fighter. Same thing with Devin Haney. These fighters have moved up, and waiting for Tank Davis doesn't seem like the healthy thing for them. So if Tank is not sending these offers to these guys, at some point, we as fans may have to take in consideration that their greatest fights may not be against Tank. That might not be what's in the stars for us, right? Tank may be looking to make fights with the best 130-pounders out there that he can bring to 135, or maybe with a select few 140-pounders. He may select a Rio Venezuela, put himself in position with certain fighters to where it could be competitive, but it seems like that team over there is very conscious of Tank's size. They're very conscious of his limitations as far as being how tall he is, how long his arms is, and how much weight he can put on in a healthy way and still be in great boxing shape. They're aware of it, even if Tank is not aware of it. They're taking these things into consideration when they're putting these fights together for Tank Davis. And as fans, it might be time for us to start being more realistic about what we're looking at when it comes to the Tank Davis conversation, and also how that influences Shakur Stevenson, Devin, all these fighters moving forward. We might have to get over it, right? We might just have to get over it. Time will tell the story. Hindsight, and you guys know my saying, it's always super 2020 over foresight, right? Hindsight tells us everything way better.
Well, and one thing I want to ask you, Claymore, because I've heard not Showbiz, but a few other YouTube contenters, they're saying that Shakur, he needs to go down the disrespect, right, train of Tank, and just get real disrespectful, right, to the point where it's just like, hey, you know what I'm saying, you got to do it. I'll be honest, I differ a little bit. I feel like when you're great yourself, right, I don't need to discredit you, Claymore, and the second thing, one of the greatest I was at the Spence fight, the Spence Terrence Crawford fight in Vegas. One of the greatest things, it was one of the best display for like the respect between two great fighters, right? You had your trash talk. I'm not here to, for kumbaya, but you had your trash talk, but their trash talk was competitive. It wasn't, it wasn't to the level we know of black disrespect. And we see it all the time. So my question is to you, Claymore, is and that's just my preference. Everybody feels different. Do the Shakur team, the PR does it need to go down a different lane in order to get the Tank fight?
I'm going to give you my honest opinion on that. And that's a great question, man. Let me tell you how I feel about this whole topic of, and this falls underneath the whole entire topic of Shakur needs to do more to make this fight happen, right? That's what I hear from you. Shakur needs to do more, whether it's disrespect, whether it's putting himself in position, whether it's passing on other opportunities, whether it's staying still so that Tank can have no choice. No, absolutely not, bro. At the end of the day, there's legacy in that fight for Tank Davis just as much as there is for Shakur. Tank is an A-side fighter. He's a face of boxing. He's the one who supposedly, this is the narrative, at least that's been pushed by his team, that nobody gives him offers, that he gives out offers. And us as fans have to we have to take that information and we have to process it accordingly and be like, where does the process begin as far as negotiations of this fight happening? Where does it fall? It falls on Tank's shoulder. Tank has already announced that he wants Shakur Stevenson as a fight. If Shakur Stevenson overindulges in chasing Tank down, do you know what that means? That means he has to capitulate to a lot of crap. He has to deal with rehydration clauses. He has to deal with where the fight happens at. It hurts his money. It makes it look like if you really want the fight, then do everything in your power to make the fight happen, which means do whatever Tank tells you to do. Like you said earlier, Shakur Stevenson within his own right is a great fighter. And he shouldn't have to capitulate to a B-side thirsty fighter, because there are opportunities out there now that Turki Al-Sheikh is involved in the conversation. There's opportunities for Shakur Stevenson to see his biggest paydays. There's opportunities for him to get involved in the big legacy fights. Shakur Stevenson said something very interesting in an interview he did with Gilly, right? They said, what fight would you rather make happen? Devin Haney or Tank Davis? He said, well, listen, man, if it's for the money, I'm going to go with Tank, clearly. You know what I mean? If it's for legacy, I'm probably going to go Devin Haney. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we might see the money thing getting scratched off the table. The issue might not be there like it was when he did that interview. When he said if it was going to be for the money, it would be for Tank. There might be other ways for him to make money. And now he gets to sit back and allow Tank Davis, who's inside of this huge deal with Amazon Prime, 5 to 6 deals, where they're expecting the biggest fights to be made. Like Shakur said, this fight is happening one way or the other. He doesn't need to chase Tank not one bit more than he's already made it clear that I'm available. I want to make this fight happen. I'm a champion in the same division as him. He said he wants to A, fight me for legacy. B, he wants to be an undisputed champion. I'm inside of all those conversations. That's enough for Shakur, in my opinion. He doesn't need to do any more than what he's doing. He needs to focus on being active, though. He needs to be focused on turning them wheels. I'm a truck driver, right? And we have a saying in truck driving: if the wheels ain't turning, we ain't earning, right? And it's the same thing for Shakur Stevenson. If he ain't fighting, he ain't making no money. If he's not working, he ain't making no money. And that needs to be his biggest point of focus, in my opinion. Not talking shit to Tank Davis and, checking boxes for a bunch of fans who probably aren't even buying pay-per-views or buying tickets to go see his fights.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Clay on that point, and just stay active. And I want to touch on the
Wait, hold on, Cheech. I don't want to cut you off, but I do want to bring Ray Davis in. He's been here for a minute. He just popped in. I don't know where he's been. He can answer that question as well. Let's start off first with the elephant in the room. Where the fuck have you been? Right?
But man, well, everybody knows I do have another job. Another job. Yeah, I have another job. I have a full-time job. It's just overnight. So, I got caught with the Sandman. Pause. You know what I mean? Punched me in the face, and I'll just beat the battle right now. So,
all right, no doubt, man. So what's good, man? What do you want to tap into the conversation?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. There's a lot to talk about in this conversation. I love the question. The answer to that question is absolutely not. Why would we stoop down to that level? The last fighter we seen talking crap to Tank Davis ended up getting black sheep out that whole fight. Was told to send a contract. He sent the contract, which he was told he can't send a contract to the A side, right?
Mhm.
He was told that Tank is the man that sends the contract. So does this bring attention to yourself when you talk to Tank? Yes, and it always brings negative attention because now that man is the most hated man in boxing today because he talked crap to Tank Davis. So does
Mhm.
Shakur want to take that road? Absolutely not. He needs to sit there. He needs to stay on his level, and he needs to do it the right way that he's been doing. Because when he was talking, if you listen to the fan base, he was talking. They told him shut up. So then he
Mhm.
said, okay, you know what? You're right. I'm going to shut up. I'm going to move over here and I'm going to slide the way I need to slide and do what I got to do. Um, and now they're telling him, oh, you need to start talking. Where's all that talk at? Where's this? Where's that? But he's talking to other people. He's not talking to Tank because y'all didn't want him to talk to Tank because he tried to talk to Tank. He knows I didn't call Tank out. Tank said I was on his hit list. So why I need to go talk to him? He's the one that wants me, right? Then they tell him that he needs to bring his stardom up. What does he have to bring his stardom up for? If I'm not mistaken, like I said to somebody the other night, I said, why does he got to bring his stardom up? Shakur's a star. Well, does he? I said maybe he needs to attach himself to a global scale. Maybe that'll help him bring in more money and viewers to the fight. Why would he do that? He needs to stay at home and get his views up here. I said, what does that got to do with anything? Yeah, he's not a star here. I said, that's crazy to me. Last I checked, he came into boxing as an Olympic champion. Last I checked, he came into boxing as a star. His name was on. His name was linked to Tank Davis then in his first or second fight as a debut. So where are we getting all these conversations that he's not a star in the United States? Where are we getting these conversations where Shakur needs to go really chase Tank Davis? They've been linked for a long time. If anything, Tank needs to pay the attention to Shakur Stevenson. Um, it's so many variables here. There's so many issues that come into this conversation with Shakur and Tank Davis. Tank Davis is a phenomenal fighter. Give credit where credit is due. But at the same time, his team or himself know where there's flaws. And they know where there's people that's going to make him reach in the toolbox, have to change styles, maybe cause frustration in the ring, not be the entertaining boxer that he may be because there's a challenge in front of him and something he has a problem dealing with, which seems to be a person that knows how to box very well. This is not the first time he's had this issue with boxers. And if he continues on his trail of not saying nothing, guess what? The fans of Tank Davis get frustrated. But they're getting frustrated at the opponent, not the guy in the ring that they're cheering for, right? So we need to see the fight. They all say they want to see the fight, but then they all say that Tank's going to win. So then why do we need to see the fight? There's so many variables, so many layers to peel back as you're talking about Tank and Shakur. Shakur's doing his own thing. Shakur's doing the right thing. Shakur is going to when he does fight Tank, it's going to be the most challenging and difficult fight. I tell you right now at 135. If Tank doesn't take this fight at 135, and I heard you guys mention earlier, I'm going to 140, then Shakur goes to 140 and he makes his career stance there. He's going to move on. Tank's the one that stands stagnant. Tank's the one that needs the fights. And as far as Shakur signing to the PBC, I don't know if you touched on this too, Clay, earlier, but Shakur didn't sign. Was the PBC even there to offer a contract to Shakur Stevenson? Were they? Because if I'm not mistaken, PBC hasn't even signed anyone this year. We have this discussion all the time, Clay. They haven't signed one fighter this year. They haven't made an offer this year. There have been fighters leaving the PBC on a monthly basis for the last 2 years to go sign with other companies, as well as Top Rank. So, and most of them have moved to that DAZN platform where there's other channel promoter companies over there. And if they wanted to Tank fight so bad, let's not forget Gervonta Davis has a promotional company and he has fighters under that banner. Why didn't he reach out to Shakur and sign Shakur if he wanted that fight so bad? You know why? Because none of these things make sense unless we're kicking someone else back in for Tank Davis. It's so many. It's like I said, there's so many layers to push back on, and Shakur doesn't need Tank. Tank needs Shakur. Right now,
Right.
legacy is where it's at. Legacy is where we're having the fire at. And guess what? Boxing's going back to what it was in the 80s. You're going to see all these fighters getting into the ring with each other, whether it's with Tank or without Tank. They don't need Tank as much as Tank thinks, or the fans think that Tank needs them. It's I'm sorry, they need Tank. But on that note, I'm pushing forward. I'm landing a plane. Thank you. What's up, Teach? And salute, my brother. What's your name?
Robert Chandler.
Oh, Robert Chandler.
Robert
Yeah.
Chandler. Salute to you, man. Great questions, great talking points.
Mm-hmm.
Sure,
No
for
doubt.
sure. Teacher, you want to tap in, or I got a video I do want you guys to take a look at, and I want your opinion on what you're looking at, what you're hearing from Steven Espinosa. But Teacher, you want to say something? You were going to say something earlier.
Yeah, those are good points that Ray made. A lot of people, a lot of time fans who talk about this situation always forget it in detail. They just forget that Shakur asked for them to contact them back. They forgot what Jay Prince said, that there wasn't any substance to that phone call, and a lot more things. So they just, whenever they always spin their story in a different way.
Right.
But what I want to say, it's the point that Robert made about the one-off deal, and there are things that actually need to happen.
Can you put the volume up at all on your vocals, or get closer to the mic? He's coming in very low.
Good.
Yeah, it's coming in real low. Like you see Robert putting his ear closer to to the thing, try to hear, coming in real low.
Real low. Am I good now?
I mean, no, not really. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, you could
But
continue. You could continue with your point then.
All right, what I'm gonna do is I want to play a video here, guys. Let me see here. Share screen. I want you guys to hear this little cut here. Shout out to Fight Hook News. They did this quick little interview with Steven Espinosa. This video was like about a month ago, right? But it's speaking towards this particular part that we're going to listen to is speaking towards the relationship between the PBC and Amazon currently, right? And questions going out there about what's going on with the rollout and what could we expect in the future, and why did we get the year that we did get from them. And this is what Steven Espinosa's response was. I want you guys to listen to it and tell me what you walk away thinking about when you hear this video right here. Here it comes right now. Hold on. Where is it? Here we go. Oh, okay. I got to switch this up a little bit. Let me do this. There we go. As you guys can tell, I'm an expert StreamYard operator. I know exactly what I'm doing. Here we go. Let's hear it.
Al Heyman being ill and hasn't been really.
Let's go back.
Truth of the matter of Al Heyman being ill and hasn't been really in the mix, so these fights haven't been coming off the way that you guys planned for 2024.
No, that really has nothing to do with anything. Al has been dealing with some personal issues, but he's very much involved. But the change in the pace is, look, we're breaking in a new media partner. They're learning the sport. They're learning the calendar. And if you look back at Showtime's first year in the business, it wasn't like we were doing 20 fights a year like we were toward the end. So I expect, this thing to, pick up steam and snowball as Amazon becomes more and more comfortable with televising the sport.
Now, is there any truth to the matter of Jamel?
All right. So that's that, right? So basically in that video right there that we're looking at, Steven Espinosa being questioned about PBC and Amazon's relationship, right? As to, whether Al Heyman's health or anything is having anything to do with this rollout this year. And as far as, if it's not Al Heyman, why has it been looking the way it is, and what to expect in the future? I don't know. I have my own opinion on what I saw, but I don't know if anybody wants to tap into what they saw there and what that meant to you as far as the relationship between the PBC and Amazon situation.
Yeah.
46. Go ahead. You got it.
Yeah. I just think that the whatever the projections, right? When the deal was made and the thought process was, it's not lining up either for probably the Amazon, since if you're seeking my service, right, you're seeking the distribution. It just didn't line up, the numbers or the quality of what they thought that they were going to get. And I think this is just a reflection of how little fights there were, and so forth. And it still comes back to, and Tank plays a huge part about this, because the thing where, and to kind of go to a point that was made a little earlier, but my thoughts on it is, I felt that Tank team and Tank being a part of the PBC and helping push the Amazon, right? That doing his part, big fights or whatever. But the Tank's team has figured out that until you affect my bottom line, right, we can fight whoever we want. And so forget these hard fights, right? I'm in a war with Shakur. I'm in a war with Dev. I'm in a war. Even I think the Tio fight is a really good fight. Instead of these wars, we're still gonna get this 30 million, whether it's from the venue, from the mixture of the venue, the pay-per-views, and whatever my guaranteed is. We still walking away good. Then, so I think they're gonna continue milking that train. But then that hurts the brand. I mean, that hurts the PBC Amazon brand, because Amazon's like, what is this, right? We need these big time fights, but the Tank's team is like, why take the big time fights if you as the fan know you're going to watch it anyway?
Yeah.
Great point.
What do you think?
Clay,
or Ray,
or
I can say
first.
I mean, to me, it's a combination of a few things. And
Teach, I'm gonna tell you, Teach, go into the StreamYard, go into the audio, hit the audio button. You can put the volume up in there.
Let me switch.
Watch. When you go into audio, hit audio, you see you can put the volume up.
It depends if he's on the computer or on the phone. If he's on the phone, he has to hit more and then go to audio. If he's on his computer, he can just hit audio.
Okay. But yeah, I'll tap in and say, man, what I'm seeing is clear. You know what I mean? Amazon and PBC Amazon has contingencies on how far they're going to move forward with boxing in the PBC. There's contingencies in the contract, clearly. There's an understanding that as things develop, we are going to develop a relationship with you based on the results we're getting off of the events that we're putting out. That's what I heard. It also let me know that PBC and Amazon's relationship and contract, it wasn't clear cut one way. And if it wasn't clear cut one way with the PBC, I'm also it's reasonable for me to argue that it's not clear cut with Gervonta Tank Davis as well. So this $240 million deal that Gervonta Tank Davis has with the PBC with Amazon Prime, without a doubt, if it is true, because I have yet to see it actually being materialized into something that's factually true. This is more so what third-party platforms have been pushing out there. If it is true, without a doubt, PBC has contingencies to protect themselves in that agreement as well, as far as the level of the fights, the quality of the fights, and the projected earnings on the fights. You're not just going to fight whoever you want, and we're just going to pay you this guaranteed money every fight. The fight has to make sense. We have to see a return that makes sense for us. We have to see something in there that's going to put us in the black. We're not going to just go along to get along, gang, especially considering, like what Steven Espinosa said in that video, is something that they're not familiar with. They're not familiar with the boxing space. So they're not caught up in the boxing space as much as return on investment. Money out, money in. Money out, money in. That's how we're gonna do this. We are familiar with your history. We are familiar with what you've done with other networks. We've seen success as far as visually, aesthetically, production-wise, what you guys have put out there, but we don't know necessarily if those networks have walked away profitable with your business model, being that a lot of networks have gotten out of business with you one way or the other. So I think that's what Steven Espinosa is speaking towards, and I think he's also well-wishing when he sits there and he says that he thinks they're getting more comfortable with it. You may think that, and you are in the meetings with these guys, so what they're telling you may have you believe in that. But us as fans from the outside looking in, I don't see any evidence that PBC is getting more comfortable with putting fights out. It looks like they're getting way more. They're putting a way more of a scrutiny of an eye of scrutiny on these events than they did before, because December 14th with Gervonta Tank Davis didn't end up being December 14th with Gervonta Tank Davis. It ended up getting pushed out. Not only was it pushed out as far as date wise, but it's also the venue got moved. So a lot of things are being taken into consideration as far as what Amazon is willing to do with the PBC. And I think it involves on the quality of the matchmaking, the quality of the fights. I think that the Amazon guys who are involved with studying the algorithm and studying what the fans are saying, because that's probably how they're trying to gauge what they think, they're realizing that, no, the fans are actually asking for other fights, and you guys aren't giving them those fights. And I think that's interesting, because why wouldn't our event do better with fights that the fans want to see rather than forcing them to see fights that they don't want to see? And there might be some pushback there. Steven Espinosa, the PBC team may be trying to educate them. Trust me, maybe Leonard Edel will be speaking to them. You don't know. Trust me. They're saying that, but they're going to take, but I don't know if Amazon is subscribing to, to that as much as they would like them to subscribe to that. Time will tell the story, but that's what I kind of pulled away from there. I don't know if Teach got your sound together, if you want to tap in, or if Ray Davis just wants to take it from here.
Is this better now?
No, it's not. It's not better. But go ahead and speak, though.
I Teach. I think I know what it is. He just has a soft-spoken voice. He just has to speak a little louder.
It's also the volume a little bit. There's something going on with the volume, but you can speak. We can hear you, Teach. Go ahead.
I went into the settings. I only saw default, speaker, and
speaker. It's speaker.
So I'm on speaker right now. But yeah, I mean, I pretty much agree with everything Seymour said. And again, just to sum it up, it's about, again, it's a new partnership with Amazon, and they're just testing the market. But the content focus on Amazon was pretty much to prioritize major fights instead of offering like normal fights. And the reason why they wanted major fights is just so they get more subscribers pretty much. So I mean, agree with everything Seymour said. Agree with Robert. You could go right.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm ready. So just in recent time, we already see what's going on. We just see Amazon right now definitely upset with what's going on, because we just see Netflix do a non-pay-per-view fight and land in the highest grossing fight of the year. That right there in itself, saying you got two stars on here that keep costing me money, where the point is you're not even spending the money to pay these guys. These guys are going and getting sourced out everywhere. You have your own fighters fighting on other platforms. Why are you guys not making these fights that we were promised? Why are you not putting these 12 to 14 fights on? Why are we starting in March? Okay, well, we needed to wait for this, and we needed our stars to do this, and we needed the power to do this, do that, and that. So, yes, it seems like Amazon's getting frustrated with the PBC, and that the PBC is definitely on its back legs, trying to counterpunch this action. But with the Netflix deal, just to throw that out there, that right there solidifies that they're in a whole different league. Prime, I believe, are telling them we're a streaming channel. We're not a pay-per-view network. We're not one of those guys. We're not Showtime. We've seen what happened there. Yes, they got rid of sports, so we're not going to kick it back in on that. But what happened with Fox? What happened with NBC? What happened with CBS? What happened with these other networks? We already know it took you a while to get that deal done with Showtime for the second run. So we need to watch you carefully. We're only promoting the fight to a certain extent. You need to put your money in on the other end of the deal, and we need to see how this goes. And it doesn't seem to be going the way that Amazon has planned. They don't seem to see a value back into their pockets. It seems to be like there's something going on there that is not making them happy, and they're really trying to force these fights. Looks like they're even trying to force Gervonta to fight better competition, put his name out there, make better fights. Canelo has been fighting. Yeah, it's been the fights we wanted, but he's actually fighting the people that some of the fans want to see, because they're ranked fighters. We will get certain things happening for the PBC if they follow the plan. They have to start crossing the street. You have to start finding these fights and making it happen. There's just so much mystery to what's going on there at Amazon, and we know Amazon is not playing fairy tale with them. So we will have to see what's going on this year, and we'll have to see what Steven Espinosa is really talking about. Because if they're putting it together and Amazon doesn't like what's going on, because that's what it sounds like he's saying, he's like, well, as far as with Amazon, we're trying to show them how it's going to be better this year as opposed to last year, and it was our breaking story, and we're going to make it happen the right way. No, you're not, because we want these fights and we want our money back. We want to see these people out there. You're not doing it, Steven. You're just a freaking guide. You're not even with the PBC. You're just somebody that left your time. You knew how it worked, and you're trying to bring that method here. We don't like it. We have our own people to do this, so. We'll see how that works out, man. At the end of the day, I just think there's too much going on over there, and they're going to lose.
I think that I see Cornelius Bennett, speaking on a lot of fights get pushed out. Why, when it's PBC, it's a big deal. I'll be honest with you, Cornelius Bennett. Is it a big deal? Not to me. It's not a big deal, right? But I do think it's a big deal for the fighters that are under the PBC platform, right? The fighters that are looking to be active, the fighters that want to know what their future is with this promotional company, who one of the reasons they got with a long time ago was for the opportunity to be active and get money. They're fighters. So if they're not active, they should be concerned. What Rafael Espinosa said, I said Rafael Espinosa, Jesus, Steven Espinosa, what Steven Espinosa said in that part over there, and keeping in mind, of course, that Steven Espinosa's job is to put a decent twist on it, right? To let everybody know that things are under control, that things are moving forward, and we should not be nervous, that this is the natural way of growing a relationship, and that everything's moving according to plan. Well, when you guys put out a plan in the beginning of the year saying that you're expecting to put anywhere between 10 to 14 events on, and you end up with 5 events, and 2 of those events are events that you didn't even pay for out of your pocket, and then you see fights get pushed out and rumors are starting to circulate that money's in and out were the issues, that Tank Davis is requiring guarantees that you guys may not have been able to honor, that the event was a bad choice of venue because of the profit potential, whatever have you. When all these rumors are circulating and there's a small amount of events that are coming out being compared to your early projections in the year, taking into consideration as much experience as the PBC has in rolling these out by now, being that they've been in network deals with multiple different networks at one point in time, they understand how these things roll out. They understand that they could be slow. You telling me these things weren't taken into consideration when he put out a projection of 10 to 14 events, that at the end of the year, him having only 5 events, that this is natural, that this is normal, that they expected this? Well, if they expected this, why didn't they say that they were only going to do 5 events for the year? Or why didn't they say they were only going to do between 5 to 10 events of the year? Why did they project to have so many more events and at the end of the year not even get damn near halfway there? No, they didn't even get halfway there if you consider the 14 number. But if you want to consider 10 being the number, that they only made it halfway there, something happened. They're underachieving, and there's a reason behind it. The reason is, from according to what he said there, is that Amazon is not yet comfortable with the way things are working. He's saying that as they become more comfortable, he's expecting more things to come out, which means they're not as comfortable as Amazon may have had them believing they were going to be when they first put this deal out there. So we're just using our critical thinking. We're speaking, we're speculating, and we're looking at something more importantly that there's no reason to look away from. You guys want it to be where we just shut our mouths, where we don't speak on what we see, and you want it to make it look like we're making a big deal out of something. It's not that we're making a big deal out of anything. It's that we're speaking on and covering what's going on in boxing. But when it comes to this topic, you guys feel like we should allow this to move on and not speak on it, or maybe speak on it and join the get along gang, the go along to get along gang, and be like, oh, this is natural. It's not natural. It's naturally dysfunctional is what it is. It's naturally not working. Next year, they have an opportunity to show improve and to get bigger. There's always opportunities for the new year to come to see this relationship between the PBC and Amazon come together in a more functional way. But there's nothing wrong with speaking on what it is right now. And what it is right now is that it's lackluster and it's underachieving for what they projected their relationship with Amazon to be this year. Period. Mm-hmm. And it connects the dots full circle to come around to, why would Shakur Stevenson sign with a promotional company like that just to make a fight with Gervonta Tank Davis when they're not showing improving with the fighters that they have on their roster? Errol Spence has not fought going on damn near 2 years. We've heard nothing from the Charlo brothers. We don't know what's going on there with their biggest fighters. Even Caleb Plant almost went this year and didn't compete, but he did compete and may have even saved the card, right? Canelo Alvarez and Edgar Berlanga end up being a decent fight, but they paid so much money out the pocket for that fight. How profitable were they at the end of that fight? I know how profitable Canelo was, and of course Canelo's going to celebrate the PBC and says, "Man, I love Al Heyman. I would work with Al Heyman a long time ago if I knew it was going to be like this." But that doesn't mean that the company is serving its purpose, which is facilitating fights for multiple fighters on their platform. It is what it is, right? But you guys get in your feelings a little bit when we talk about the PBC. My bad for the long rant and the big spiel, but no, nobody's making a big deal, and nobody's just sitting here poking at the PBC. We're just keeping it 100, man. It is what it is. They're not achieving the goals that they set out for themselves, and contrary to popular belief, it's not for any reason. It's not for a natural reason. It is a natural reason. It's a natural reason that the relationship between Amazon Prime and the PBC hasn't been as fruitful as potentially the Amazon may have wanted it to be. Because why wouldn't Amazon just go double down on something that's making them all the money in the world? I want to bring in here for boxing in the building. Salute.
My brothers, what's going on?
Man, we chilling, fam. We chill, family. What's on your mind?
What up,
I
though?
wanted to ask y'all. What's up, Ray? How you, bro? We talk every day. Ray was doing that earlier trying to get them gold laundromat tokens.
All right.
Ray was
I'm
trying
gonna
to
stop using my platform for that nonsense, bro. Go ahead, bro.
I'm the demon. I gotta get one off. Pause.
Yeah.
No Diddy. Yo, I wanted to ask y'all, did y'all see what Errol tweeted yesterday to the dude that was saying Errol about to make a comeback or whatever? And Errol
nobody reached out to him. Exactly.
He didn't say nobody reached out to him. He said, I haven't heard from anybody in months.
Right,
but
right.
We got to put it in context. Like, I haven't heard from anybody. Like, these people ain't even talking to me. Where's the reports on that? Y'all report everything else?
I reported on that earlier.
Not you.
No. I'm just saying I did. I reported on it.
I'm talking about Team PBC.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like y'all always seem to ignore the positive about certain fighters to push the negative. Like me and Ray talked yesterday. We talked yesterday, and I said when Terrence Crawford got the keys to the city, he had a big parade. There was no reports on that, but there's reports about Terrence Crawford spraying a chemical on Errol Spence's chair to absorb in his system so he could come into the fight high. Like, why are we not being fair about these things, being objective about these things? We say we not journalists, but then we break news every day. You can't have it both ways. You're a fan, you know what I mean?
Listen, man, I think everybody speculates because that's what you have to do at times, especially when you're dealing with like Gervonta Tank Davis and people who just don't go to social media with everything that happens in their careers, which I think they're well within their right to do it and probably smart for not doing it, especially if you're in a situation where things aren't locked down solid and you can't just go speaking on predicting your future. But so what does that leave? It leaves the content creators to speculate on what they are hearing, right? We talk about what's actually going on in boxing, but the reality is if we didn't speculate on some of these topics, that we wouldn't even be talking about these fighters at all, right? Because they're not fighting, A, and B, they're not communicating to the social media space. So if we're waiting on them to communicate to us and let us know what's going on, well, a lot of these fighters would fall to the wayside. So in many ways, us speculating keeps these fighters brands alive and keep their image and their presence alive in a space that they're not very active in. I think the issue ends up being when some people start to scrutinize or focus their energy and put under a magnifying glass one content creator's speculation versus their own speculation, right?
Right.
And not acknowledging the fact that we're all speculating and one could be right, one could be wrong, both could be right. There could be a little bit of everybody's that's making sense. Like this Shakur Stevenson, like the Tank Davis, Lamont Roach situation, right? It's like maybe it's a little bit of the venue and a little bit of the money, right? Maybe it's a little bit of both. Maybe they're coming together to cause a big problem as to why the event is going through. But, when people try to be right and make their speculation more accurate than another speculation, that's when it gets weird. And that's when it gets, it just gets toxic.
The problem is when you put sources behind your speculation. My sources tell me, no, just say I think. And that way you can say I think. And then like, well, that's what I thought. I was wrong. As opposed to coming up with these ghost sources and saying like, oh, somebody told me this. Nobody told you nothing, bro. Stop.
You know what my sources told me? My sources told me that. You want to hear it anyway.
I don't want
so the sources. Told me, stop it. And everything y'all saying is that Listen, y'all literally just in-gamed it. Y'all just unlocked the gate. I'm not trying to be funny. So pause on all that. But look, my sources are saying, and they're not real sources, by the way, but it's what I see, and it's called the social media platforms. You don't even see anybody in the PBC really putting information out there. They're not talking to the fans. They're not interacting with the fans. They're not having these conversations because they don't know what's going on. Where you see other fighters are always interacting on other platforms. They're always making some type of conscious decision to do interviews. They're making conscious decisions to have uh, um, their own discords, and they're always on Twitter, whether they're battling each other or just throwing something out there saying happy birthday,
Yeah.
showing some love. You don't see this from PBC fighters. You know what you get from PBC fighters? Hi. Oh yeah. Yo, Tate said hi. You know what that means? He's coming back. He's gonna fight tomorrow.
Errol Spence posted a
Oh,
picture exercising. The return is upon us.
Earl. Right, exactly.
Like,
Earl,
yo,
let's see how good Earl looks. Let's not talk about ego weight watch, excuse me for saying that, about Earl Spence because he looks like he's about 190 pounds sitting there running on the beach. We're just going to talk about Devin Haney looking like he just lost 25
yo,
pounds.
I'm gonna jump off
Listen,
for a few minutes. I'll be right back.
but
All right.
my point is there's always some type of, hiatus with these guys, and they're allowed to do so. Devin Haney took his hiatus due to the fact that he was dealing with issues with the courts, and I hate to bring up Devin. Jeez, you can put me in the back after this, Clay, but it's a good point. Shakur went and took his hiatus because the fans told him to stop talking, and then all this stuff is where you at? Why you ain't say nothing? Why this? Why that? And it shows that over there, because you're with PBC, you can do whatever you want. And like I said, drop a word. Hey, and then everybody freaks out. Oh, he said, hey, where these guys are sitting there and they put out statements saying, hey, look, this is going on. Sorry I haven't been here. You got my support. I support you guys. We thank you for your support. And we're going to keep pushing to get matters right in boxing. But nobody says anything. Oh, yeah, he's just capping. He's just trying to hide behind the whistle. Pause. Again, he's hanging out with Diddy. And, you know what I mean? It's like, yo, where do y'all get this from? Y'all just got, and it's not just the fans, bro. It's really just like the actions because the PBC powers beyond control are out here navigating and brainwashing a lot of these people to think that, hey, just because we got a black president and excuse me, not Obama, and Al Heyman, and we are a pro-black channel. I don't even know where that came from. That's another PBC terminology, right? These guys run with that narrative instead of saying, listen, all these guys are doing the same thing. Let's move a different direction. And Amazon is on to this. Amazon's like, look, y'all not doing what we want you to. Again, I would just want to throw the Netflix thing back in there and be like, yo, if Netflix can do this without streaming, why can't y'all do this without pay-per-view and streaming? Why can't y'all do this? Okay, well, it was Mike Tyson, no, you got Tank Davis, Canelo Alvarez, Benavidez, you got the Charlo brothers, Earl Spitz. These guys have been on regular television when it was Showtime, and they still were able to bring out the numbers. They were still able to make gates. So why can't you guys do the same thing? Why is Turkey talking about cutting all these prices in half? I'd rather work with that guy. Each $20 a fight, but you guys charge still $90, and it's a fight that nobody wants to see, not even us. Crazy. I'm gonna land the plane right here, Clay. At the end of the day, what we're looking at, and it was a great point taken by here for boxing, right? Great point that all this stuff that we're doing is speculation, and it's great for when they speculate about what they want. But anybody that gives any type of outside interference, because they're speculating as well, are automatically the bad guy and automatically being hated on and all these things. Even the boxers themselves, and it's a shame. And by the way, one more question: didn't the fans want to see Andrade and Charlo fight? And that was back last year and about this time. And they were on August of last year. They were in a conversation saying that they wanted to make the fight in November, and that never manifests. And that was opportunity after opportunity to do so, to make a big fight at that division, and it didn't happen. And the reason why that didn't happen is because these guys are not able to put the fights together, and they keep these guys on ice. Unfortunately, that's the way it is, and you're going to see some changes. Trust me, future will tell.
Yeah. I think what it comes down to at the end of the day is you know, it's a lot easier said than done, period. It's easy to say something, it's a whole nother thing to do it. And as far as the PBC's lack of activity, you know, that's business beyond our pay. Salute boxing hacker, salute King. Beyond our understanding at times, because we're not conducting the business, we don't know what's going on. But at the end of the day, it's not a good sign. You know what I mean? Whether you want to take it as a bad sign or not, that's up to you. That's your opinion. It is what it is. But ultimately, at the end of the day, as a fan, you know what we're seeing. We're not seeing fights get put together. Period. That's what it comes down to for us. That's what it ends at every single time. And we're going to speak on it. You know what I mean? Boxing is what boxing is because of activity, not because of the soap opera. We're not into it as fans. As a fan, I'm into the fights happening. When they're not happening, I'm going to question as to why they're not happening. And if I speculate, it's going to be speculating in the direction of these fights either happening or not happening, period. That's it. Everything else is not my business. I'm not here to see fighters make the biggest money they ever made. I'm here to see fighters accomplish the biggest legacy and accomplishments they've ever done. As a fan, that's what I'm paying for to see. That's what I'm here to see as far as boxing is concerned for me. I'm not interested in celebrating your payroll, celebrating your cars, your fashion, your swag, your cool outtakes, your antics. I don't care about none of that. I'm here for fights, right? And I'm here for quality legacy fights, accolade fights, fights that are pushing you towards the direction of championships, unifications, undisputed, greatness, right? Pound for pound status, face of boxing energy. I'm here to see all that manifest and develop. And after that, everything else is for the birds. It's literally and legitimately for the birds. You know what I mean? It is what it is. Zepeda soft, that boy ducked all wreck. Shout out to Jip Cash Bag. Long time. I don't know if I've ever seen you on the channel, but salute. Hit that like button when you come in or before you leave. And also definitely subscribe to the channel if you have not subscribed to the channel yet. I'm about ready to land the plane and push towards closing out the show. I'm gonna give everybody like a quick little minute and some change to go ahead and close out, and then we're gonna be on our way out of here, guys. I appreciate all you guys showing up in the building. Shout out to everybody who threw some color in the chat. I believe Mr. Big Play, Braze, Danny Sanchez, and N Conquest. I appreciate you guys. If you guys forgot to put some color in the chat and you planned on doing it, go ahead and hit that button. You know what I'm saying? And I'm gonna put my Cash App up here as well, just in case you guys want to hit the Cash App, because let's be real, Cash App is where it's at for the kid. You know what I mean? That's where the bread really comes in at. So there's the Cash App as well. I'll pass it over to Teach. If you want to close out and say anything, it's on you.
Yeah, I'll just touch on the last point that you guys were talking about. Pretty much what we want to see from PBC is regular boxing coverage. And I think it looks like they have been trying to do so. They gave us a free card on Amazon, one free card. And they have been willing to work with, Riyhad season, with their fighters. Like they had 2 of their fighters on the Riyhad card with Bud. And they pretty much had 2 of their fighters on MVP. So looks like they're willing to work with some promoters to get their fights on their card, which is good. I like that. But ultimately, I think what they need to do is, just find a network that they could just get regular coverage with, and with like a full card. Maybe they could work with the Zone. Maybe they could work out a deal with Turkey to do what Oscar De La Hoya did with the Latino night. Get a full PBC card on a Riyadh season. I think they're still in the progress of working everything out. So we'll see what they have for us in 2025. And to that, Faymore, good talking to you. Good talking to Ray. Thank you for giving everybody an equal opportunity to speak on your panel. Thanks.
Yeah, no problem, bro. I appreciate you contributing to the channel, man. Feel free to come up any and all times, man. Let me shout out to a couple of super chats we got coming in last minute. Mr. Big Play Bray back in the building with the Respect the Grind for the $2 holler. Thank you, brother. I appreciate you, man. Thank you, man. And Blade Brown also showing love with the $5 holler, man, showing the strength. You know what I mean? We are building a community. I appreciate all the love, man. Every little bit helps and helping the channel get bigger, reinvesting everything that we're getting back into this channel So many different things on the way and things that we want to do. So it helps, man. I appreciate you guys, man. Don't forget the Cash App is always up there if you guys want to use the Cash App, being that we get all of that rather than you know what I'm saying, then some of it, you know, the split is diabolical with YouTube. But we appreciate it no matter what, man. Appreciate the love, man. Ray, do you want to close out with anything, say anything for the space or?
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to start by saying that, you know, we all appreciate everything that you guys do in the boxing space and bringing boxing as far as it has come in recent years. But as you can see, with the things that are
Wait, hold
currently
on.
happening.
I don't want to cut you off. Hold on a
Oh,
second.
go ahead.
Ty Morris said,
Jersey
bro.
in the building.
Moonlaka out here?
Jersey.
Haitian? Or what's up, man? I did not know that. Is that real? Ty.
Yeah.
So Ty,
Yeah.
throw the confirmation there. He Haitian?
Mm-hmm.
Haitian Dominican?
Yep.
Oh. Rates on the Haitian side, on your Dominican side, but salute to the whole island, Dominican Republic and Haiti. You know what I'm saying? Salute. My bad, Ray Davis. I just had to say,
No,
I
you
saw
good.
the flag up there. I'm like, huh?
Well,
Go
listen,
ahead.
I just want to say shout out to Jersey. You know what I mean? Absolutely. So listen, we at the end of the day are really got to see what things are happening. We see that the world of boxing space on YouTube is getting shaken up. We're seeing a change in the platforms and how things are going. The reason why this is happening is because it's no longer dominated by one promotional company, which was the spokesman of YouTube streets. It's starting to look thirsty out here. It's starting to look very moist. People getting in their feelings and unnecessarily. Everyone out here is doing the same thing. We're all on the same grind. We're all trying to make things happen for what it is, because that's what we see in this sport. That's what we want to see in this sport. We want to see, and not just on YouTube. I'm saying generally, right? We want to see all these things happening because at the end of the day, what happens when boxing wins? We all win, but we're too busy changing the factors of things and making things look worse than what it is. On that, Clay, I really ain't got much on that. You know what I mean? Let's just keep it boxing and thank everybody for being there. Oh, look who it is. What's up?
Yeah.
What's up, MC
Brown,
Carl?
give him a moment. Carl Brown, what's good with you, family? I'll give you a moment to go ahead and sit your spiel. We're on our way out the door for sure, but I definitely couldn't let, you know, I saw you up there. I definitely got to give you opportunity to put your spiel out there.
All right, yeah. Well, I just jumped on. I ain't even gonna hold you, Clay. I don't even know what y'all talking about or nothing. I just seen Clay live, and I'm like,
yeah,
let me go holler at my boy. You know what I mean? Well, you always try to show love when I could, man.
No, I appreciate you, bro. Always. I mean, if I see you, I ain't gonna let it slide, bro. Like, hell no. Hold on, let me go ahead and bring him up. But you know, we just building on everything. You know how we do. We were building on everything, bro. Like we definitely were building on everything today. You know me, I don't really focus on one topic. I get crazy. I was all over the place. Everything boxing today, you know what I'm saying? But you know, Shakur, you know, Zepeda gonna fight Schofield. Is he gonna move up to 140? Jaron, Ennis, and Vergil Ortiz gonna fight. What's happening with you know, we talked about Clarissa a little bit. We talked about Hamza Shiraz a little bit. Talked about everything, bro. I think we touched on everything, baby. You know what I mean? But yeah, we are about to close it out though. What's up? What's on your mind?
All right, let me ask you, do you think, like, for real, I get that Shakur could be fighting Zepeda. My problem is with that, because I wouldn't want Shakur to lose to Zepeda.
Wait, hold on. You are aware that William Zepeda, wait, hold on. You're aware that William Zepeda is hurt. He's no longer fighting Shakur now, so Shakur has to find somebody else, right? Go ahead.
Yeah, I was getting at that. I was about to say, being the fact that fight is off. Like, I like the fight with what's his name?
Floyd Schofield.
Floyd. I like the fight with Floyd Schofield, just because I want, and that's crazy because I rock with Shakur because we from the home same town, but that's not my cup of tea of fighter. Like, you know what I mean? But I will be praying and rocking for him to beat Floyd Schofield. I could, the world would be finished if Schofield beat Shakur. And I'm not saying he don't got the skill to do it. I'm not saying he don't got the skill to do it, but I will pray that he don't even. I want Shakur to whitewash him. I would love to see his father, his his father look on his face, because if Shakur mess around and lose to him, man, y'all know what
Man.
time it is, and that'd be crazy.
Yeah, no doubt,
But
no
I'm
doubt.
scared that he might still beat Shakur. I ain't gonna lie. And my bad, I ain't gonna
No.
hold you up. But and the reason why I'm scared, because the only reason I say so much about Shakur, and y'all know why. Like, say what y'all want to say, he can be sharp, he can be defensive mind, but with somebody like Zepeda and somebody like Schofield, Shakur gotta let his hands go a lot. That what he did with Edward De Los Santos, that won't pull with everybody else. You not gonna pick everybody else apart and fool everybody else to think that, I got both of my hands, but I'm only using one of them. Nobody ain't gonna fall for that. Niggas gonna make you put that work in, and y'all know I ain't fronting either. Everybody besides Edward, and I doubt if he fight Edward again that it would be the same. But that was low punch output for both of them. 61, 62, and the other one 40. So come on, man, this is a boxing match. If Shakur don't let his hands go, I don't see him beating Schofield, and I don't even like Schofield. I don't see him beating Zepeda if he don't let his hands go, and I don't see him beating Schofield if he don't let his hands go. And I'm saying that I'm not taking nothing away from Shakur. I'm just saying he has to let his hands go when it comes to those types of fighters right there, and we all know that. Them hands gotta be flying. He gotta hurt.
I definitely.
I just want to say, go ahead. Yeah, I know you are. I just want to tap in real quick. I like that comment. That's all. Carl Brown, that was a great point, but I'm going to give you some really good analysis from what I've seen. One, Schofield, the way he fights, he's easy pickings for Shakur Stevenson. Easy pickings. That's number one. Number two, Zepeda may be more of a problem, but the issue with Zepeda is you have to wait and see. We don't know what we're going to get. Shakur is definitely a guy that plays chess, not checkers. So we always have to remember that, regardless if it's 60 punches, whether it's 1,000 punches, Shakur is going to always sit there and he's going to analyze the situation. He's going to use his ring IQ to win the fight. He's playing chess. He's not playing checkers with these guys. And for any doubters out there, just go look at his career.
And you right, and I ain't saying you wrong at all. But for real, the reason why I say that is because I think I said it clearly the first time. You know what I mean? Like I'm talking about. I get the chess and checkers, but what about somebody that don't want to play no board game? What about somebody that's saying, you know what? I'm going to trust in the process that Shakur can't knock me out. I'm about to let these hands fly. Can Shakur do the same old thing? That's my point. Because you got Schofield, he's young. He already talking about if he lose, he's young enough to bounce back. That guy gonna throw it all on the line. You get what I'm saying? Zepeda get dropped, but we know he Mexican. Zepeda gonna still let his hands go. I'm just saying what I'm saying. I get the chess and checkers. I swear to God, the checkers, and I get it. Shakur, he playing chess, not checkers. But what about somebody that don't want to play no games?
Yeah, no doubt, man. I agree.
You're right.
Yeah, I'm gonna close it out and land it here and say we're gonna find out a lot of answers on the night when Schofield and Shakur fight each other if they're able to line that fight up. Obviously, both fighters have things that boxing that need to be checked. Fans want to know what Shakur deals with pressure. They want to see him let his hands go more. Schofield's gonna get the test to see if he's actually out of his league. He's been asking for the biggest fights possible. People have been saying that he hasn't done nothing to earn it. Well, look, he has an opportunity to potentially be in the ring with a Shakur Stevenson. He gets an opportunity to check a lot of boxes as well. We'll have all those questions answered a lot better the night those guys fight each other. I appreciate everybody showing up on the platform today. Shout out to Ray Davis, man. He was a little late today, but better late than never, right? Shout out to Carl Brown. Shout out to everybody who showed up on the panel today, man. Robert Chandler, a new addition to the panel. I really appreciated you, Robert Chandler, today. I think you really gave a lot of great input. Shout out to Teach. for showing up and building with us on the platform today. Shout out to everybody in the super chat today, from Tom Morissette all the way to Mr. Big Play Bray, to Blade Brown in the building. Salute to you and Conquest, Danny Sanchez. Shout out to all you guys who supported the channel today. Everybody who showed up in the building today. Cornelius Bennett. I seen T Orlando in the building. Bruce Gas Boxing, Blade Brown, Bubs Boxing was in the building today. We had a lot of guys. DGO was in the building today. Obviously Carl Brown was in the building and on the panel. Hannibal showing love, and everybody else. If I ain't mentioned, I'm not going to go all the way down the list, but the great show today, great boxing. Catch me later today on Blue Blood. I don't know what time that's kicking off. I'm assuming somewhere between 3:30 to 5 o'clock, somewhere in that window. We'll be kicking off and building on what Blue got to build about. We're going to be talking about a lot of boxing there as well. See you guys in the morning as well. Once again, if this is your first time tapping into the content, subscribe. Definitely don't forget to hit that like button. Check the like button if you haven't done it yet. And if you haven't thrown no color in the channel yet and you plan on doing it, feel free to do that as well. But on that note, and at this point, too much love.
People, everybody subscribe, man. Subscribe, man. Subscribe.
Let's all build a
subscribe to Clay. Subscribe to Clay, man. Clay keep it real. Clay keep it real all the way. Like, nah, you keep it real. Ain't no such thing you try. You keep it real, Clay. Like, I see you do the phone. I can say things, but you're a real nigga, for real. Like, I don't fuck with fake niggas. Like, for real. You're a real nigga, bro. Keep doing what you're doing, Clay.
Thank you, family. I appreciate that.
And to everybody that didn't subscribe yet, for real, man, go out there and subscribe to Clay, man. Like, for real, you get that real boxing talk over. Alright, so you, Clay, and I'm gonna try to jump on later. Alright, bro.
Alright, salute. Peace.
Salute, Ray. Salute. Salute to everybody, man. Thank you, man. See you guys later.
The hate when you elevate. The second of losses, I'm handing them out, yeah, I had to go delegate. It feel like I'm floating, I'm lost in the moment, I swear I couldn't levitate. They never believed that I would really fly, I had to go demonstrate. I had to set them straight. The hate when you elevate. The second of losses, I'm handing them out, yeah, I had to go delegate. It feel like I'm floating, I'm lost in the moment, I swear I couldn't levitate. They never believed that I would really fly, I had to go demonstrate. I had to set them straight. The hate when you elevate.